In the White House, President Eisenhower signs the proclamation that makes Alaska's entry into the Union official, nearly 92 years after Lincoln's Secretary of State bought the territory from the Russian Tsar for $7 million.
The Alaska Wild Project podcast is brought to you by the following sponsors.
Barney's Sports Chalet, supplying hunters with the best hand-selected gear since 1963. The exclusive home of frontier gear built for the rugged Alaskan terrain. Your one-stop shop for all your outdoor needs. Visit Barney's today at 906 West Northern Lights.
Tailored Restoration 24-hour emergency home services, helping Alaskans restore their dreams since 1972. Services include fire, water, mold, post-emergency cleaning, repair, and remodeling. Give them a call in Anchorage, Eagle River, Matsu, or Fairbanks. Hit them up at tailoredrestorationalaska.com.
Total Truck and Alaska Overlander, Alaska's premier supplier for custom automotive accessories and overlanding products, providing all-inclusive rental vehicles and trailers custom outfitted to explore the Alaskan backcountry with a unique and convenient traveling experience.
TheTreehouseAK.com, located at 341 Boniface Parkway, Alaska's own and grown cannabis and CBD store. Ask the bud tender what the strain of the day is to get your 10% off. The Treehouse, where the culture lives. AKO Farms, located in Sitka, Alaska, built from the ground up with concentrates as their single motivation, with exclusive products such as their sugar wax, full spectrum diamond sauce cards, and more. Ask your local bud tender about AKO. Marijuana has intoxicating effects and may be habit-forming and addictive. Marijuana impairs concentration, coordination, and judgment. Do not operate a vehicle or machinery under the influence. There are health risks associated with consumption of marijuana. For the use of only by adults 21 and older. Keep out of the reach of children, and marijuana should not be used by women who are pregnant or breastfeeding.
The Bait Shack, located on Ship Creek upstream of the bridge. Can't miss the bright red shack. They are the go-to fishing gear rental and guide service on Ship Creek. Tight lines and fish on. Come hook into the action with them. Hit them up at thebaitshackak.com.
Snow Pro AK, your snow and ice management company specializing in business and residential properties. They know what it takes to keep your property presentable and safe. Give them a call for a free estimate at 280-7098 or visit lawnproak.com. Double Shovel Cider Company, located off of Arctic and 58th, handcrafted Alaskan-made colonial ciders. They also have a tap room downtown on the corner of 5th and E. Stop by today and taste an award-winning cider.
The Alaska chapter of Backcountry Hunters and Anglers. BHA is the voice of our Alaskan public lands, waters, and wildlife. Their goal is to uphold our hunting and fishing legacy while keeping our public lands wild. Stand up today and join BHA at backcountryhunters.org. Oh, is that right?
And then
You put those on, we're on.
oh,
now.
Yeah.
Are we live or something?
Yeah.
Yeah, we can keep going there.
Make sure, yeah, you just move that arm closer to you. You don't got to
There you
lean
go.
in.
Anyways, the second year we actually had a team that said, okay, yeah, we want to win it. Now, now we know what it is. Mm-hmm. We go to regionals, we get out of regionals, and then we end up when we go to nationals. Nationals are in Vermont, and we walk. So you play 3 games. You're in the round robin.
Yep.
And there's anyway. So we walk through. We won all 3 games. So we're number 1 seed going into the playoffs, and we play against a team from Chicago, and everything that could go wrong went wrong. We missed 2 breakaways. We didn't even hit the net with shots.
Just whiffed it.
Everything, shot it wide.
Yeah.
Everything just went wrong. Couldn't make a pass. And it actually was a 0-0 game going into overtime, and they scored. A puck bounced up, hit our goalie, bounced up, and it's rolling over here, and a kid standing right there bunts it. Actually hits it with their shaft and bunts it in.
Oh.
We lost that, and so then the next year, now we're 16s, and they go, and we lose the first game. We tie the second game, and we tie the second game, and so we have to win the third game.
Right,
Otherwise, we're done.
To get points, yeah.
And we're playing against the number 5 team in the country at the time from Wisconsin, and we play and we wax them. And it was like, oh, okay. So we're 1-1, and we limp in as the number 4 seed in our division. play against a team that we had to, obviously we beat them. Play the second game against a team from New York that we had played in good games and stuff. Beat them, so now we roll into the championship against a team from Vermont that hadn't been scored on in 5 games.
Wow.
And we scored like 5 minutes into the game, and the wheels came off the bus on them, and they just fell apart. And I text my dad. I said, "We're winning." And they won.
Just broke their backs, basically.
Yeah, we didn't blow them out, but it was a 3-1 game.
Sure.
I should say we, the kids.
Yeah.
The kids did it all, and but that ride was so incredible. And my daughters, I'm living through that, but just watching the progression and watching those kids develop was one of the most enjoyable experiences I've had with hockey. It was probably, I had some great moments in hockey, but watching that team and that group that stayed together and watching them have success and feeling what it took. You actually, sometimes you got to lose to know what it takes to win.
Absolutely.
And it was really impressive. It was cool.
Yeah, it makes it taste sweeter.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
That's cool too, because you had some good experience in your playing days.
Yeah, let me. One of the original University of Alaska Anchorage, 1990, 91, 91, 92 Anchorage Aces, not to be confused with Alaska Aces.
Different team, right?
Yep. Lots of Pims. I'm seeing here on Hockey DB. Looks like
Hockey DB is not exactly super accurate. There's a couple of mistakes in there.
So give or take a couple of minutes.
One of my biggest regrets in hockey was playing for Dubuque Fighting Saints my second year. I had we played 48 games. I think it was 48 games, and in the regular season, I had 99 points, so I was 1 point shy of 100. But I had 198 penalty minutes. I just think if I would have stayed out of the box for a few minutes, I may have
got your 100.
Hockey DB must have started later because they don't show when you look it up. They show that you played there, but they don't have no stats for that time. It doesn't start till '87 when you're at Northern Michigan.
Yep. Yeah, Hockey DB wasn't really around. The internet wasn't around.
Yeah,
that's how old it was.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, no way.
No, it's a hell of a lot different.
They couldn't find the paper stats that they were taking.
I was going to
back
say, those
then.
were all on paper.
I actually do have the newspaper thing. It's pretty cool. The people I lived with kept the scrapbook. It was pretty cool, actually.
Oh, that's funny. That's funny.
Awesome.
A hockey background.
Yeah, that's great. That's great.
Well, hockey brought me here. If it wasn't for hockey, I wouldn't be here in Alaska.
Is that right?
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I grew up in Chicago. Playing hockey, and actually, I was on the way to go out east. I was playing at. Are we recording?
We are recording.
This.
Yep.
Be careful of some of these stories.
Hey, man. There's no censors, so you just let it rip.
I was at prep school in Lake Placid, New York, and I got caught in a certain area of the dorms that I wasn't supposed to be in, and was asked to kindly leave. And so I found myself playing in Dubuque, Iowa, and ended up going up to Northern Michigan, played there at my first year, and I'd say it was a two-way street. The head coach was kind of a hard ass, and I didn't really do things that got me into his good graces right off the hop. And so I played about half the games. I thought I should have been playing more, but I played about half. And I go, I'm done with this. I'm going to transfer. And so I was either going to go to Wisconsin, where my best friend, who's Donnie Granato, who's the head coach of the Buffalo Sabres now, but Donnie was playing there. And he said, yeah, come play here with us. Or come up to Alaska, because back in Dubuque, half the guys on the team were from Chicago and half the guys were from Alaska, because that's how they used to do it. You used to have territories.
Oh.
And so, I had, guys like Derek Donald and George Thiel and Gary Dixon and Darren Semenuk were all up here now. They're up in Alaska and they're playing at UAA. And they said, hey, we got a really good thing going on up here. And Mark Ostapina was the assistant coach up here. He was the head coach of Dubuque when that first year I played in Dubuque. So I had that connection, and what kind of was really the kicker was that when you transferred back then, it's not like now, but when you transferred from Division I school to Division I school, you had to sit out a whole year.
Right. Yeah, it was like a penalty kind of.
Right. To keep guys from jumping from school to school, right? Now they encourage it.
Yeah,
now they got the portal
changed everything.
Yeah. Oh, God. Where was that? But
yeah.
Anyways, so what really kicked it for me was that at that time, the Alaska Gold Kings were up in Fairbanks, and John Rosie was the guy who owned that team, and they were playing senior amateur hockey, which was kind of the prelude to the Aces. But it was really competitive hockey, actually. It was really good.
I'll bet.
And so John said that he would bring me up there every weekend, and I could play games. So I would take the edge off of having to sit out for a whole year. And UAA got that okay through the NCAA that they could do that, and so that kind of really said, okay, I'm going to come up here and sit out.
Kept you fresh, huh?
Kept me playing, and so came up here, played, sat out the 1 year, but played for the Gold Kings, and then, I got up here, and about, I'd say 3-4 weeks after I got up here, I remember I was driving on Minnesota Road. I didn't know what it was called. I was on Minnesota Road. I was back looking at the mountains, and snow had just kind of started coming up on it. I was looking, I'm like, God, this is such a beautiful place. And I called up my mom, and I said, I don't think I'm ever coming home. And I hadn't fished or hunted or done any of that, right?
Yeah.
And Derek Donald took me on my very first fishing trip, and took me fishing on the Keene with Bob Peters, a guy up here, a local guy, and we ended up catching some silvers. I was like, oh, this is great. But I just said, Mom, I don't think I'm coming home. She's like, what are you talking about? And it's not because of great fishing or anything. I just felt free. It felt really wide open. I was like, God, this is going to be unbelievable opportunities. And I didn't know what those opportunities would be, but I had no idea I'd be owning fishing lodges, but in Bristol Bay. But
it sucked you in, man.
It hooked me hard.
Yeah.
It's funny you mentioned Bob. We play with his sons now.
Bob Peters?
Yeah. Scott and Joe and those boys.
Oh, we're talking about Bob. Electrician
Bob.
IBU Bob.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Yeah, he used to have
I know the name.
He used to have a guide service on the Keene River.
Yeah,
and
right.
So Derek Donald knew him somehow, and Derek said, hey, let's go fishing with Bob Peters. That was the very first year I got up, because it was August, right? So we went down there and caught fish. The next year, the Cusacks were big in hockey at that time, Doc Cusack and Mike and Casey and everybody. And so, but Doc had a place in King Salmon, and they took us on a float trip. They're generous enough, and took Steve McSwain and, Cord Cernich and Mikey Cusack and all of us and Derek, and we went on a float trip, and that was the first time I ever had been on remote Alaska.
Yeah.
You got a treat.
Yeah, I got spoiled real quick.
What river did you float?
King Salmon River.
All right.
Yeah, down out of Mother Goose Lake.
Yeah.
And then Corey Wright, another local superstar, old school hockey player who I still skate with on Wednesday nights. He took me on my first rainbow trout fishing trip down on the Kenai, and we hiked in from Bing's Landing. I guess we hiked down and towards Ski Lac Lake. Hiked in there.
Wow. It's a long hike.
Yeah. Well, he said, I got the secret sauce. And like, okay, what are you doing? Well, he pulls out shrimp. He's teaching me how to pirate fish. He's corrupting me right off the hop.
So it's been a secret for a while.
So that was my introduction.
Oh, that's funny. That's great. Welcome to Alaska Wild Project, episode 116. Today we have Brian Kraft from the Alaska Sportsman's Lodge and also Alaska Hockey. Thanks for coming in, Brian.
Thanks for having me. It's been a blast already.
Yeah, really good start, man.
Yeah.
It's easy to just start flowing with the stories, huh?
I've been up here 30 whatever years now, and the stories, whether it be hockey or fishing or just friends and the people I've met up here, it's just amazing. So it's easy to sit here and talk over beers and just have the stories go.
Yeah. When you played at UAA, did you feel like, to me personally, like that's when I really started watching hockey, and I was probably a young teen, probably 14, 12 back then, and we'd go to the UAA games. I remember going to watch you play, and Derek Donald and all the other guys. It feels like that was the pinnacle at the time for UAA hockey. I mean, I see now it's coming back, and Shasby's doing a great job. We've had Shasby on the show, and now that they're going to hopefully build that new arena for them and expand that thing, it's going to hopefully get better. But in my mind, do you agree with this? That was like the time. I remember the Sullivan was sold out. I remember these big schools would come by, and we're sneaking to get in there because it's sold out, and there's cheerleaders. And I mean, do you agree with that? That was probably the best that UA.
Well, yeah, timing was right. I mean, timing was right. You know, you had before us was the McEnany's and Molly's and Knucklebees and Sorensens that had really kind of started putting the team on the map and playing
the
as
groundwork
independent. And then, you know, the culmination of our group, you know, you got guys like Dean Larson, Derek Donald, Rob Kahn, Jeff Batters, Paul Craik. I mean, those guys were all phenomenal hockey players. That back then, you know, there was no internet or anything, and so there could be kids that were missed. Right? If a scout didn't physically see them, they weren't getting the attention. And so some of those guys slid under the radar. And Mark Ostapina at the time was a phenomenal recruiter. And he was assistant coach at UAA with, you know, Brush Christensen was the head coach. But Mark was a phenomenal recruiter. He was very smooth, very polished. We could talk to parents and, you know, feel comfortable. And he actually really cared. He was passionate about the game. But he, you know, helped build a group of guys that all had a chip on their shoulder. I mean, we were all passed up by other schools. You know, my situation didn't work out at Northern Michigan. Others had been passed up by the Wisconsins and the Minnesotas of the world. And this was it, man. This was the last shot you had. And if you wanted to play at the Division I college level, this was it. And so we went into every game with that chip. And we were like, Ohio State, who cares? You know, Michigan, Minnesota, whatever. We're going to sweep
give it your all every time.
And it just kind of really blended together. And, you know, one of the things that I look back on, you know, the year that we went in and we swept Boston College, you know, that team, that was in the NCAA quarterfinals. And then we went into, I don't know if it was quarterfinals, but anyway, it was the first round. Yeah, and then quarterfinals were in Northern Michigan. And we limped into Northern Michigan. I don't know if a lot of people read or know about this or anything, but so we walked into Northern Michigan. Derek Donald got hurt on the last shift of the game by Bill Garrett and got cross-checked behind the net at Boston College as we were sweeping them. They had never been swept in Boston
at home.
Oh, shit.
In that arena. It was a newer arena, like 4 or 5 years old. But then, anyways, so Derek gets crushed behind the net. He separates the shoulder. Dean Larson, all-time leading scorer at the university, was out. Doug Spooner, who's, you know, 20-goal scorer every game, was out. And Lauren Knopf, one of our stud defenseman, was out. So we go limping into Northern Michigan. We lose, I don't know, it was 7-5 and 5-3 or something like that. Northern goes on and wins the national championship. So I look back on that. And so then, of course, Dave Shayak came here as a head coach. Shayak was on that team. That was my senior.
He was on the Michigan team?
He was on the Northern Michigan team.
Oh,
and
wow.
so that was the senior year. That would have been my senior year, the year that they won it. And Dave, you know, and I helped coach for a little bit, you know, as volunteer around and help Dave be a little liaison and help with the players and stuff like that. Well, I go into Dave's office. He's got a picture of that national championship winning behind him. I always just throw darts at him and go, you know, you guys are freaking lucky we were banged up because we had Larson and Donald.
I mean, it would have been way different.
I think so. But to answer your question, sorry about the long answer. I think it was the height of the program. I think some things really happened that took away from it. After that, you know, we got into WCHA, and, you know, I think there was some questionable decisions made with the direction of the program as far as coaching goes. And then the university's got to take some responsibility as well. You can't just throw the patch on the jersey and WCHA and call it good and not properly fund it. And we talk about this rink opportunity. University has got to make a decision. You know, I mentioned my daughter went to school in Montana State in Bozeman, and I guarantee you Montana State didn't build whatever it is, $50-60 million football stadium thinking they were going to get a cash return on it and break even. They built it because they knew it was going to give the school an identity, and they were going to play Division II football. We need a rink here. We need an arena for this hockey program, not because it's going to exactly pencil out on the games, at the revenue that's going to bring in, but the long-term gain that's going to that the university is going to realize, because now a kid's going to see it. We're going to play an NCAA tournament at some time. It gives Shasby the opportunity, the tools to recruit that kid that is thinking about going to Michigan Tech or UAA, and he sees a beautiful arena on campus. That will push a kid over. And now instead of losing a game 3-2, we might win a game 4-3, because you got a hopping crowd of 3,000 people in there screaming and getting the energy going. And so the university has got to make that commitment. Are we in or are we out? If we're in the Division I hockey program game, fund it properly, get the arena, and it's almost like a build it and they will come type of mentality that the university's got to have. So,
And isn't that what they pretty much did with the basketball arena?
Yeah.
I mean, I know it's a sensitive stuff. I'm just saying, like, so let's get another one of those.
Yeah.
And we have another venue that we can use. And then there we go. Like, we're go time.
Well, not only does it benefit the students that are there, the potential students that will go there, but also the entire community and the youth that are coming up right now, like our kids. Like, that was like watching you guys play when I was a child. That got me into hockey. Like, my family's from Colombia. We didn't play hockey. You know what I'm saying? And then, you know, growing up with Scott, you know, his mom's Colombian, and that just seeing that showed a kid like me a whole different avenue, a whole different sport that you could play up here. And then just having that arena at UA is just going to basically shine a light and open a door for some of these kids, not only in Anchorage, but all over Alaska. Be like, oh, I could one day go to the big city in Anchorage and go play for my hometown.
Yeah, absolutely. And
Home state.
the other thing that it does too is, you know, every school has got a mascot and got an identity, right? Well, that identity is not because of, and not to disparage the book club, but it's not because of the book club, right? It's not because of the chess club. It's because of a spectator sport. And so you walk in Madison, Wisconsin, it's Bucky Badger everywhere. And that's because they have athletic programs that bring national attention to it. Yep. And so you have Bucky Badger everywhere in Madison. Everywhere around this community, there should be a Seawolf stuff. This community should be plastered in Seawolf. Well, the way you get that is you get excitement about the program and about the university through a winning program.
Yeah,
Anyways.
that's right.
Yeah. I think, not to keep rolling, I know that's a little soft spot there, but it's on its way, I think.
It's definitely headed in the right direction.
In the positive direction with Shasby and the way the program, and you know, I feel like we had Shasby on. He wouldn't have taken this opportunity if he didn't think there was a chance he could make it happen. So,
well, we have a committee. You know, I'm on the board with the committee to get this rink built, and you know, Kathy Bethard has really spearheaded that. But you know, there's serious people involved in it. They're looking at this. We got a study going on right now, an economic study. But that's where I kind of go, all right, well, you know, that economics probably aren't going to pencil out that you build a $70 million arena.
It's going to take a long time for that
you're
to
going to get
back.
a payback on. But what are the intangibles? You know, what does it bring to the community? What does it bring to the university? You know, what does it bring to the program?
And thanks for your passion. You can
you can feel it.
Feel that, dude.
Well,
like that's really from the core, man.
That Alaska Airlines Center is a tough one.
Yeah.
Because then at the time, the university wanted that built, and the community, there was a bond proposal.
Right.
And Cobb was the AD at the time, and he would bring around brochures and pamphlets that showed a multi-use facility is the way he would word it. And it would have basketball, gymnastics, and there'd be a hockey player in it. And he came to the hockey community and begged us for support, because it didn't look like this bond was going to pass. He begged us for support. And of course we fell asleep at the wheel. I don't know who was watching, but hockey community pushed for it. We got it passed. Rink gets built. And I was like, what do you mean there's not hockey in there?
Yeah.
What, you know?
Yeah.
And so that was really kicking it.
And there's people to this day. I was just having a conversation with somebody last week. They're like, wait, there's not a hockey rink in there? I'm like, no. They're like, what?
Yeah.
I'm like, let's not go there. But no, there's.
I remember the day that I checked the yes. Like, we thought that the rink was going in.
Yeah.
You know, it's bullshit. It got pulled.
It was tough.
It's a curtain.
It'll happen.
Yeah. I hope so.
Yeah.
It also might happen in a way, and what it sounds like, that you have a venue where the fan spirit makes more of an effect on the ice than
100%, man.
And that's a big deal. Like, you look at Gonzaga and these schools that it's super hard to play at. That is the stadium we want.
Well, I mean, when we were playing at Sullivan Arena and we were drawing 1,200 people, you know, how can you get? They're kids that are playing the game, right? And hockey is a emotional, physical game. And if you're jumped up and you're amped up, you might beat that player, the competitor, to the puck, or you might knock him off the puck, or just find that extra oomph, that extra bit of energy to go. And like I said, now instead of losing 8 games 3-2 over the course of a season, all of a sudden you win 6 of those by 4-3 scores, and all of a sudden you're hosting a playoff game.
Yeah.
Yep.
Right? And next thing you know, you sneak in a playoff win, and then that kid that's sitting in Minnesota or Chicago or wherever that's scratching his head going, should I go to Michigan Tech or Northern Michigan or University of Alaska? No, University of Alaska's got a beautiful arena and a beautiful campus, and I like to fish and hunt.
Great facilities.
That's where I'm going.
Totally.
And get some good ice time.
Right.
Versus maybe, playing for the other school.
Yeah, it's it's an amazing thing. We Alaska draws people like yourself, these people that future entrepreneurs or people that just are passionate about Alaska and outside. And so we already have a draw, but the more opportunities that we build to bring people that have some sort of skill set and passion about something in life and put them in this scenario, Alaska is going to be a blossom, right? It's going to be better and better and better. Mm-hmm. On the other side, we lose so many of our people. If they had a good hockey program, we would keep some of it. Then they go down and they meet a woman from the Midwest, and then they bring their love and energy to that area instead of home.
Yeah, absolutely.
I wonder if they have to have a women's, right, hockey, if they do the men's?
No, it's just it's
gymnastics.
It's as long as you have the same number of sports. It doesn't have to be the exact same.
Oh, okay.
Right?
So if you have 5 women's sports, you have to have 5 men's.
Right.
Oh, it doesn't have to be the same sport.
Same number of scholarships, I think.
That's the whole.
Got it. But it'd be cool to have a women's hocky.
It would be.
Yeah.
There's so many awesome girls up here.
Oh, yeah.
Are you kidding me? Girls getting opportunities to go at, I was telling you about Allie Green. She got opportunity go play at St. Cloud State Division I hockey program. She got a scholarship to go play women's hockey, right? Got an education out of it. I mean, phenomenal. So, it'd be awesome to have it up here.
Well, one big positive that I witnessed last week, the Tier 1 tryouts for 14U and 16U for the Team Alaska, I think there was 54 girls at the 14U tryout and 35 girls at the 16. And that was really, really cool to see, man.
Yep.
I mean, the ice was just covered, and when they did their scrimmages and whatnot, I mean, I have a young, my daughter's 14. She's been playing since she was 5. Girls hockey has just gotten better and better, and now it's like, for my little short window of time seeing it, it's like pinnacle of involvement and girls getting into it. So there's only so many spots on those teams. So now the other organizations, the All Stars and North Stars and Oilers and everybody, now gets a really good pool of passionate girls hockey players.
Right.
It's probably the best it's been in a long, long time.
That's good. That's good to hear.
As far as the pool goes, it's great.
Do you still keep up with hockey nowadays, like NHL or college stuff?
Yeah. I do. I still skate. I skate once a week. We have a little group that we skate on Wednesday nights, and we kind of laugh at each other. And you're trying to do that move, you couldn't do it when you're 22. And no, I wasn't trying to. I was just falling awkwardly and trying to make it look graceful. But it's actually kind of competitive. There's some younger kids that play, and keep us old guys, me and Corey Wright and Dean Trbojevic and Jimmy Mays, kind of keep us in line. But I like it. I follow it. I follow the NHL. I'm a Chicago kid, and so the last few years have been so good for Chicago. But the run there from 10 to 16 was pretty darn good.
Hell yeah.
And it was a lot of fun. Unfortunately, I'm good friends with Matt Carle, a local kid who grew up and went to Denver University and won a Hobie Baker and had a phenomenal NHL career, with the sad result that he was playing for Philadelphia when Chicago beat Philadelphia in 2010. And then, son of a gun, he's playing for Tampa Bay when Chicago beats Tampa Bay.
Oh, yeah. You don't rub that in, do you?
No, actually, Matt's such a graceful person and gracious person. He's phenomenal. And it was actually game 6, and Tampa was in Chicago, and it was June 7th was the game, and our season opens on June 8th.
Stanley Cup.
Yeah, Stanley Cup. And I text Matt, and I said, hey, can you get tickets to the game tomorrow? And he's like, yeah, come on down. And I'm like, all right, let me think about it. And he goes, hey, get it. The cup's in the building. Come watch the game. And I talked to my wife, and I said, should we go? We could get on a midnight flight tonight and be in Chicago, 8 a.m., and go to the game. And I said, I think Chicago's going to win and be, I grew up sneaking into Chicago Stadium as a kid, and, to watch them win it on home ice. And, my wife and her wisdom, much smarter than me, she goes, you think Chicago's going to win? I said, yeah. And she goes, well, how are you going to feel for Matt after that? I'm like, yeah, you're right. She said, why don't you just come in? My dad was living in Anchorage at that time, that summer with us. She says, fly back in, watch the game with your dad, enjoy it with your dad here at the house, and give your tickets to your best friend from growing up in Chicago. And so,
cool.
So I called up my buddy, and I played hockey with my whole life. I called up him and Donnie Granato, who I mentioned. He's the head coach of the Buffalo Sabres. We were all best friends. And I called up Kurt, and I said, hey, you and your son want to go to the game tomorrow? And he's like, are you kidding me? You got tickets? And I said, yeah. So anyway, so he went and he took pictures, and so I watched it through him. Of course, Hawks won that game, and I just felt I was like, that's great for sure. It was such a bittersweet feeling.
Oh, I bet.
I called up Matt later. Matt came out to the lodge, and actually Matt had his bachelor party out at our lodge, and I asked Matty. I said, hey, can you get traded to Chicago so I can sign a free deal? Perfect. Tired of rooting against. I can't root against you. So, friends are thicker than long-time loyalties of teams. But anyways.
But tough for him to go and go get to the end there and lose twice. I mean, you feel bad. Yeah. I mean, who's the other guy that just did it? The Worm. He played for the Canadians, lost, and then he played for Tampa and lost last year. And the year before that, he played for Dallas and lost or something like that.
Kind of got to the end and just couldn't get over.
They call him the Worm, man. He's just a little rat out there. Older guy. Now he plays for Tampa. He played for Anaheim Ducks for a long time with
Corey Perry.
Corey Perry.
Oh, yeah, Corey Perry.
Yeah. I don't feel for him, though.
I know, he's a little rat out there.
He's dirty.
But still, dude, they make it to the finals and lose 3 times in a row. It's got to be brutal. I mean, God.
Yeah. No, that's brutal.
Yeah, he's out now, though.
It's like the old Buffalo Bill days, they made like 4 Super Bowls and lost.
Oh, yeah.
It would have 4 Super Bowls or 4 AFC championships. Which one?
4 Super Bowls.
4 Super Bowls.
They made a movie out of it.
The Broncos.
Talk about get over the hump, dude.
Oh man, yeah, that was rough. Yeah, that I think that Matt Carle thing was big for all Alaskans because we won the cup. We all root for all the Alaska kids.
Well, we got a good shot with Swayman here.
Oh yeah.
I mean, unfortunately, what happened this round?
They should have put him in earlier.
Yeah, I mean, throw him in that kind of situation, challenging for any athlete. But he's a phenomenal player. He's a winner. I mean, they'll especially with that team or wherever he goes, he'll end up giving an opportunity to bring the cup home here someday.
Yeah, that's way cool. What a bummer for that organization, though.
Yeah,
to have such a winning season and
it's the curse.
I mean, get hung up. I just saw that Florida game last night. I mean, they're pretty nasty.
Yeah,
they're big.
They're on like a 6-game route.
I mean, were they hyped all season?
No, they barely scratched into it. They barely scratched in.
Yeah, they were. Well, yeah, they were the last one in.
Okay,
it was them, Pittsburgh and Buffalo fighting it out.
Oh, right at the very end. Yeah, I mean, just watching them last night and that home game, I was like, damn, they don't look like. They don't look like the tail end playoff team.
Yeah, they got nothing to lose.
Yeah,
that's what it is, right?
Yeah, there's no pressure on them. They're not expected to win, but they also, you have to remember they've been in playoff mode since 20 games left in the season, right? And so they've been in that mode, and they're kicking on all cylinders. Where a team like Boston's like, we got to play a game in the middle of March that doesn't mean anything to us. They're all professional athletes, but still, it's not. Sharp, right?
They got hung up.
Yeah.
Big shout out to the Seattle too, man. They're riding. They're riding. That stadium looks rocking too. That looks awesome.
Yeah, that's fun.
And good for them. I mean, they spend a lot of money helping out UAA and saving out hockey, and hopefully they can come through with some help on the arena and all that. I mean, good for them because they're on the same. Like, imagine the Kraken Florida final. That's just like no one thought that. I mean, nobody thought that. That's crazy.
Not even close.
Yeah. It'd be good.
The travel would be a bitch, though, wouldn't it?
Oh, man. Yeah.
Corner to corner.
Yeah.
So do you see that Chicago got the first draft pick?
Yep.
What?
Yep.
They got Bedard?
Yeah. Well, they got the number 1 spot.
Oh, they're
and
going to take Bedard, of
all
course.
Signs are that they're going to take the 17-year-old wonder kid.
Well, I knew Chicago. Yeah. They got to give it to Chicago. That's the biggest market that was there.
But how about that? Just poetic justice. They dismantled the team. Kane's gone. Taves was the last piece of the puzzle, and they cut ties with him, and then Chicago gets the first round pick that could potentially build the dynasty again. That's a long ways out to get there. But this kid Bedard is pretty spectacular, and so a lot of people are saying, was there a little bit of a fix in that draw? Chicago. I mean, come on, it wouldn't be the first time something was fixed, right?
If it wasn't a fix, it's just, dumb luck because
maybe too.
A player that's great in Chicago is going to be elevated higher than a player that's really good in Arizona, say, or Anaheim.
Yeah. Well, it's a lottery, just like So they, but they're saying maybe they had the little let's pick this. Oh,
weird how that worked out.
What was nuts is if they would have lost that last game of the season, they would have had the best chance. It was like a 26% chance, and they beat the Penguins, so the Penguins couldn't go in the playoffs, and it dropped them to have the third best chance. Right. It was like 11%.
So they didn't really tank it to get the pick.
They didn't. The Penguins didn't make the playoffs because they beat them, right?
Right.
It let Florida in, I think.
It was that tight.
Yeah. Do NHL teams really tank like an NBA?
The suck for luck.
Like I don't. It doesn't seem like it's culturally a thing in hockey.
No, man, you're out there trying your hardest every time.
I don't think there's coaches on the bench that are going out there and telling a guy like not to try hard.
Yeah, the GM would have to bring up the AHL guys to try him out or something.
Yeah, I don't know.
Right.
I don't know about this culture nowadays, but back in the day, it'd be like, oh, you're going to pay me to do this? Okay, great. I would have done it for free. Passion, right?
What do you think about that actually? Because there has been a major shift from big tough guy fighting guys to this speed skill game that's going on now.
I love it. I needed it 20 years ago. I'm 5'8". But the speed game's fantastic. I would like to see creativity, and you just watch some of these younger guys that are coming in that are, Jack Hughes type of guy that are, it's hard to say Patrick Kane. I mean, there's only so many guys.
He's Patrick Kane-esque,
right? But to see creativity, because the game is so fast now, it's just like bing, 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 pucks bouncing everywhere. And I watched a couple of junior games here, and I watched some back in the USHL here recently, and it's just like, man, these kids don't even have the puck on their stick. I mean, it's like, it's so quick. It's boom, 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 boom. And it's like, okay, we'll almost slow it down a second, get creative with the puck, make some plays and stuff like that. It seems like the game has been opened up tremendously. I think it's great for the game. I like it. There is still the need to have some physicality in it, and I think that's important. And I think you see that going away in some of the junior levels. I just think it's important that stays with the game. It's what helps differentiate the game. But I think, not seeing as much fighting is good. I don't think that you have to have a lot of fighting, but it's an exciting part of the game. You ask people, and if they tell you they won't stand up when a fight happens, they're lying to you, right?
Yeah. Oh, hell yeah.
So,
well, you can see it even when there's a big a big hit, like a big open ice hit, which you don't see that often anymore. Where the dude just gets stood up at the blue line and just get knocked down. But when it does happen, I can maybe count only like 5 in these playoffs this year, and it's just like, whoa, whereas back in the day, it was
like every other shift.
That was like every other shift. That was normal.
Oh, yeah.
Well, I think it's, and, hockey is one of the few sports that we regulate ourselves without the referees drawing the lines, right?
Right.
So there's a lot of stuff that's not even said, or, it's just unwritten rule. Like, you take out a guy like we were talking about, Dean Larson or something like that. Well, we had 4 or 5 really big guys on our team that would come after him real quick. And you touch that kid again, there's going to be hell to pay.
Strategy to it.
Yep.
Hence the JJ.
Oh yeah.
Yep.
Exactly.
Hence the JJ.
Well, it's pretty refreshing to hear an old school hockey guy like yourself. With all due respect, I say old school, but you come from that era of like gritty, aggressive, hardcore hockey fights, right?
Yep.
Big hits. It's refreshing to hear you say that because isn't it an overall better product on the ice
Right now,
the way it's constructed?
I think it's entertaining, very entertaining. I think the goaltending pads should be smaller. They've gotten so big. These goaltenders now, 6'2", 6'4".
They look like refrigerators, man.
Having more scoring is better. The NHL has tried with the overtime rule of 3-on-3 hockey, which opens it up. But I think just normal in the 60-minute game, it'd be really nice to see some 6-4, 7-5 games. Scoring is entertaining for the
Yeah.
club. So it's a little bit tough when you're watching a bunch of 2-1, 3-2 games. But
Yeah.
anyways, it is what it is. But I think I do like the product now. I think it's very entertaining. That hockey has always struggled with compared to football, and not to disparage football, but I've gone and watched a live football game at a stadium, and it's kind of boring. I almost rather watch it on the big screen at the bar, right? And it's having a beer and everybody's watching, and what it is football has 4, 5, 6 seconds of play of action happening, and then there's a 30, 45-minute break, and there's instant replay on everything. They show you every angle of it, and you can sit with your girlfriend or buddy that's never watched football in their lives and show them it, and they can watch it and they go, oh yeah, I get it. And it's kind of entertaining. And so compared to hockey, which moves so fast, you can't see the puck on TV. It's hard to see it. You don't know what's going on when you're watching it on TV. And so compared to live, hockey live is unbelievably exciting.
So
so
fun to
electric.
watch.
It's so energetic.
Man.
I mean, it's just unreal.
It's fast.
And so hockey has just always struggled with the TV aspect of it.
Yeah.
But talking about the product and the speed of the game now, it is really cool. And the product I think just needs to keep people engaged, and a fight once in a while that adds excitement to it. You can't lie about it, right?
Yeah.
It does bring it in. So
We all kind of want to see it.
Everybody wants to see it.
Oh yeah.
Everybody wants to see
Is
it.
it going to break for
do you watch the cars go around NASCAR and no crashes, or when there's a crash you go, oh, everybody's eyes are on it?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the highlight on ESPN is the crash.
Right.
Yeah.
That's what everyone wants to see.
Yeah, it's
right,
not
man.
lap 275. It's when the crash happened, right?
Yeah.
True, man.
Yeah, exactly. Let's take a quick break, and we'll be right back and get into some more story time.
Sounds good.
Oh, yeah.
Barney Sports Chalet, supplying hunters with the best hand-selected gear since 1963. Barney specializes in supplying hunters with the absolute best Alaskan-proven gear on the market for some of nature's most rugged and demanding terrain. Whether you're headed to the remote volcanic islands of the Alaska Peninsula in search of a brown bear, or the shale-infested glacial valleys of the Brooks Range for Dall sheep, it is critical you choose the right gear for your dream hunt. Don't miss Barney's exclusive brand, Frontier Gear of Alaska, tested from the high mountains of Tajikistan to the extreme conditions of Alaska. These products were designed for high performance and durability. Frontier Gear was derived from decades of experience hunting big game in Alaska. Paired with other top brands, it provides you the absolute best gear selection anywhere in the world. Stop in at Barney's Sports Chalet in Anchorage on Northern Lights, or check out their custom website and reference tool at barneysports.com.
The Alaska chapter of Backcountry Hunters and Anglers. BHA is the voice of our Alaska public lands, waters, and wildlife. From national level policy work to engagement with boots on the ground projects from Kotzebue to Ketchikan, BHA performs public land cleanups, hunting and fishing clinics, and community education to help take your game to the next level. BHA's community-minded goal is to uphold our hunting and fishing legacy while keeping wildlands wild and fostering the next generation of sportsmen and women for years to come. Make sure to follow BHA Alaska for upcoming events, local brewery pint nights, and more. Stand up for Alaska public lands and waters by supporting the Alaska chapter of Backcountry Hunters and Anglers. Join us today at backcountryhunters.org.
The Treehouse AK, your one-stop dispensary located at 341 Boniface Parkway. Be sure to ask the bud tender about their deal of the day, because honestly, there's always something good on deck. And guys, listen, this is where the culture lives. At the Treehouse, their dedication to servicing consumers has been developed through a lifetime of involvement in the cannabis culture. They're committed to providing the highest quality products at whatever value your budget affords, while always maintaining the deep-rooted principles that have carried them this far. Their focus is on relationships over transactions, and you can always depend on them to treat you with the respect you deserve. Hit them up at thetreehouseak.com, and remember, you must be 21 years of age to enter their store.
Yeah, is that canyon pretty sketchy?
It's really narrow. It's a big drop.
Oh.
And then it's kind of has a pool at the end of it. But it's I've run it myself. I can take everything off the raft, and you can just, it's real short.
Okay.
And so
run all your gear up on shore.
Run your gear up on shore. Have two people run it across, and then you just go with a single raft and or single oar and steer your way through it.
Okay.
I've also just lined it as well. You can actually walk right along the cut out and
so
line it.
I'm not super familiar with rafting, and maybe for our listeners, lining it. So you're basically holding the raft while you walk it down the river?
Yeah, you got it attached tethered to a line.
Yeah.
And you're just letting the raft go through it.
Okay. And holding on to it.
Holding on to it. Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Just don't let it go.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, I've got that story too. Coming back.
You just jump right back in the water and swim after it?
Yeah, I was doing guided float trip when I first got going. I started that company called Kraft Adventures, and we're on a river, and it had been raining, of course, for 3 straight days. And you're putting your tent up in the rain, you're taking your tent down in the rain, you're cooking in the rain, you're just soaking wet. And this is before Gore-Tex. This is neoprene.
Yeah,
days, right?
Before good rain gear.
Yeah. And so,
and tents and tarps and
and I got these two people. They're actually from Chicago, and I'm upriver and we're fishing with them, and we're going, and the guy just nonchalantly goes, "Hey, there goes the raft." And I look, and the raft had somehow the wind had gotten it, and it's going down river. And like, this is before sat phones, and we got nothing. We're there, and we're floating a remote river in Bristol Bay. And so I take off and I go running. Of course, I'm touching my tippy toes, and now it's over. So I go and I get this raft and finally get it, and I got to drag it all the way back up. I'm soaking wet. It's neoprenes, and I mean, it was not good guiding.
No, you got a hot tub there.
Yeah. That comes with the nature of the business, right?
Yeah,
gonna get wet from time to time.
Sometimes you gotta learn. You gotta do it and make a mistake and learn. You know what? I need to make sure the raft's tied off every morning.
That's
right. Not worth taking the chance, right?
Yeah.
Well, we were on I think our 3rd week. We added some fun new segments to the show. So one of the ones that I like to highlight is Alaska Did You Know? Some fun facts about Alaska. And since we're on the subject of Bristol Bay, Alaska Sportsman's Lodge, I did a little research. And so did you know about 135 years ago, canneries started in Bristol Bay? You probably know this, right? Some of that. One of the cool things, and this is a really long report that I read, but I'll shorten it up. One of the main deterrents from power boating up the river to limit fishing access for commercializing was they used sailboats to fish for salmon in Bristol Bay. Number one, they're cheap to run, right? No motors. And they used what were called double enders. Do you guys know what a double ender is? I didn't know what a double ender. How about you? Do you know what a double ender is?
Yeah, I would say the front and the back of the boat, so you can catch fish off each side.
Close. So double ender is basically the front and the rear of the boat look the same, right? So they use double end sailboats to basically net fish. I'm assuming kind of like maybe like a seining, not a seiner, because seiner would be like a
drift gill netter.
Yeah, exactly. But they went obsolete many, many years after, but they maintained the use and they fought for the use of using sailboats to keep powerboats from coming up to try and limit the overfishing of Bristol Bay, the Nishgak River. So I thought that was a fun fact that sailboats were commercial salmon the fishing boats to limit, because powerboats had come along.
Yeah, maybe they bring that back. They'll bring the Kings back.
Very true.
You can only have a king permit. You got to go with a sailboat.
Yeah, I thought that was interesting. I thought, man, it was usually a 2-man crew per boat. And I just thought about all the work, especially for a guy if he ever got stuck on a sandbar or something.
Oh, man.
Right? Like a double-end sailboat. You got your sails up, you get stuck on a sandbar, wind picks up, boom, dumps the boat over.
You mean like one of those?
You got it.
Yeah.
That's it.
So
There it is.
the Bristol Bay Heritage Land Trust recommissioned a sailboat. And they refurbished it and
Wow.
brought it.
That's awesome.
Brought it over from Homer to commemorate the 125th year of the fishery or whatever it was.
Sweet. Okay.
And brought it over from Homer and sailed it down Lake
Yeah, and they were
Gilliam.
about 30-foot boats, I think, and that's
Yeah.
probably somewhere in that range.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's
Yeah,
right.
the old Viking sail, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
If you don't mind, you have to share that with us
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
we can
Yeah, we'll add that on Instagram and tag you on it and do a did you know with that picture.
Yeah, I
that
love
was
it.
just
I love it.
last summer.
Yeah.
They actually sailed that boat all the way down to Bristol Bay and
Nice.
parked it in Naknek
Nice.
and King Salmon. And,
Perfect. Yeah.
Yep. Tim Troll with the Bristol Bay Heritage Land Trust.
That's awesome.
It was,
I want to get back and start on when you first started with the lodge, and how you basically acquired the lodge. And I heard there's a pretty interesting story with that.
so yeah. So I mean, how many hours we got?
We got plenty.
Lots of hours.
All the time.
All right, so let's go with this. All right, you already got the story of UAA. You know, like I'm here playing hockey for UAA.
Yep.
And my teammate was Darren Semenuk, local Alaska kid, and Darren's dad was the driller on the Discovery well in Prudhoe Bay. And
Oh, wow.
Darren's dad had become the executive with Doyon Drilling, and Mr. Semenuk got me a job my first year working as a roustabout. And, you know, here was a native-owned company. And, you know, back then I knew nothing about native corporations or native companies or anything like that. And so here, Doyon Drilling, owned by Doyon Native Limited. And for a non-native Alaskan, white kid from Chicago to get this very lucrative job on Doyon was kind of really major
Taboo.
gymnastics by Mr. Semenuk.
Yeah.
And so, you know, I had to go up there and I had to work really hard and, you know, and so I did. But anyways, the story, you know, you work 2 weeks on, 2 weeks off.
Yep.
My 2 weeks off, I started going fishing everywhere. You know, Darren and I and Derek Donald and Dean Larson, we'd all started going fishing. A lot of the guys, though, would leave and go home. Right, so they'd go to, you know, Bogey Avis was from Colorado or from California, and guys from Minnesota and Canada and stuff. They'd go home for the summer. So my senior year, I said, you know what? I want to take all the guys on a float trip on the Kenai River, and I just want to put in at Kenai Lake, float down and camp out, drink a bunch of beer, float down the rest of the way, and get picked up the next day. And I'm going, you know, can anybody rent us rafts? I'm calling around. No raft rental companies at the time. You know, Mark Cohen's got Alaska Raft now, but that wasn't around. And
Yeah.
you know, the Russ and Ketchum would rent your rafts if you were going to fly with them, but we're going to, you know, it's like, no, we just wanted to drive and do it. Anyways, we never did the float trip. And so I just kind of kept that in the back of my mind, started the season. And that year at Christmas time, I had an opportunity to go play professionally over in Europe. So I signed my deal, went over to Europe, came back in April and bought a bunch of rafts and started a raft rental company and kept them at Mr. Zirkel's place, Gene Zirkel's place, Alaska Aircraft Sales at Lake Hood there. Kept them there and started out with 4 rafts. And by the second week, we had 8. We just couldn't keep them in. I mean, they would go out on a Sunday.
Oh, man. As soon as people found out about that.
They'd take them, you know, take them to Gilcana or Lake Creek or whatever.
Yep.
And I'd help them, you know, I'd get maps and help people out, you know, like here, where you'd go. And so then the next progression was, well, hey, I've got friends coming up. Could you guide them? Okay, how hard can that be? Sure, I'll guide them. And so I started floating Alexander, Lake Creek, and the Talshalitna were the 3 rivers that I'd go. And
Big Sioux drainages.
yep, and it was a blast. You know, we'd catch great fish, and it was so much fun. And you know, it was awesome. And at the
Great
time,
experience.
I was playing for the Aces at the time, and that was Roger Graff, Lau Ani, and Brian Young. and they were funding it out of their pocket. And at the time, it was a senior amateur team, and so we play against the Gold Kings, we play against Fresno and Whitehorse and stuff like that, and so we all had to have some other kind of job going on. And so I was peddling real estate or working at Alaska distributors, being a quarters guy and stuff. But I was doing whatever it took. But the following summer, so this would have been summer of '93. Following summer, I had a bunch of float trips that I had booked, and so I needed help. So I had a local guy, Ned Graham. Bruce Graham still lives here. That's Bruce's younger brother. So Ned helped me out, and we went out and we started guiding these float trips, and it was awesome. And the company grew really quick. And so now it's going to be summer of '94, and I'm out doing all these sports shows and selling all these trips. And on May 1st of 1994, there's an article on the front page of Anchorage Daily News, local businessmen busted in drug ring. And I read this article, and it's about a guy who's head of the Carle Colombian drug cartel. And he's in charge of distribution of cocaine from the Mississippi West. And the FBI and DEA bust 120 people or so all across the country at the same time. And this guy was living in Anchorage, Alaska, and he was the head of it, logistics. And it lists his properties that he has. And, it lists a house in Potter's Marsh, trucking company, lodge on the Kvichak River. And so I walk into the U.S. Attorney's office the next day, and the U.S. Attorney was a hockey fan, and I'd met her in the booster room at UA games. And
oh wow!
So I walk in, and I said, "Hey, I want to buy that lodge." And they go, "You can't buy that lodge. We just indicted the guy yesterday, and we seized it. We don't own it." And I said, "Well, that's fine, Betsy. You better get somebody in there to caretaker. You just advertise on the front page of the paper that nobody's going to be in this lodge. Everything's going to grow legs and disappear if you don't get somebody in there. You have a good day." And I turned around and walked out. And they called me back up and asked if I wanted to do it. So I said, "Yeah, I'll do it. I'll pay the lease. I'll pay the lease to the native allottee that owns it, and I'll insure it, and I'll inventory everything. But if I make a nickel, I get to keep it." And they said, "Okay, yeah, no problem." So I ran it that whole summer. We scrambled. I think we put in like 121 guests that summer. There was nobody really booked in when we took it over. And then when I say I enlisted the help of Gary Sampson, and Gary Sampson played on the '84 U.S. Olympic hockey team, and he was up here coaching Colony High. He started the Colony High hockey program, and so he's up here coaching, and so I got Gary Sampson, so we call him Sammy, real creative hockey nicknames. And so Sammy went out, and because I had all these float trips still booked, and I tried to convert some people into it. Some people still want to do the float trips, and so we were learning how to do this lodge business on our own. And I remember one time
you had never been out there yet.
Never been out there. Well, I did do some float trips. I had floated the year before. I floated the Cockatoolie and floated the Alagnac.
Okay, so you had a little bit at least like familiarity with the area. Okay.
But never on the Kvichak?
I'd never been on the Kvichak.
Okay.
And the first time I was on the Kvichak, the U.S. Attorney had agreed to let me do this. And so I enlisted a guy to come to take us out there, fly us out there. And then there was a booking agent in town, and he was, he would sell trips and to all the lodges and stuff. And he knew this lodge was called Big Mountain Lodge. He knew Big Mountain Lodge, and so he kind of came out with me. And I remember getting on landing in the village, and I asked one of the locals, I said, "Hey, could you run us over there?" And he goes, "I'm not going over there. I don't want to. I'm not stepping foot on that thing." Last time we were there, we were talking about the little village of Igiaga. At the time, had 35 year-round residents, and Black Hawk helicopters had come in there on May 1st to catch this guy. And anyways,
he was at the lodge when he got in.
He got word. The story is he got word. He flew back in his cub. He had a cub that he flew back in while the DEA was coming out after him. And so,
wow.
Anyways, but he flew back in and ended up turning himself in. They had convicted him with life without parole, but I heard he just got released on that nonviolent criminal forgiveness thing. So anyways, so we I first time I get on the Kvichak, because he said, this guy's name was Dan Salmon. He said, "You could take the boat, but I'm not going there." So I'm running this boat across the Kvichak, and it is gin clear. I mean, unbelievable. And I go across in the village over this place. I'm walking around this lodge. I have no idea. I can't even tell you how to turn on a generator or what. I don't know. And so,
what'd you get yourself into?
Right. But we made it work. We actually had a lot of really good support. You know, the name recognition from the UAA days was huge. And then I was still playing with the Aces now, and we were starting to get name recognition. And so I'd actually go on road trips. Like, we'd go to Fresno and play games, and I'd do a sports show in Sacramento during the same weekend. So I would drive back and forth between them. And, you know, I was hustling up whatever I could do to get clients, and ran it for the summer of 94. And then I had a whole bunch of people that wanted to rebook. And so I went into the U.S. Hey, I want to buy this thing. And they said, well, get everybody in agreement, meaning the native Alati that owns the property. You have to get the guy that's in prison. You have to get Frank. You got to get his blessing, because he still technically owns it. We haven't convicted him. And then get us, and we'll agree to it. Well, I'm a handshake guy, so I went and I got everybody's handshake. Everybody agreed to it. Well, Frank's attorney ended up stealing the deal. And so I found out in March of that year, so March of 95, or I mean, 95, sorry, March of 95, that I had the opportunity to run the lodge for that season, but on October 1st, the attorney was going to be the owner of it. So it was actually kind of a blessing, because the lodge was okay, but it wasn't logistically set up right for parking airplanes, and there was a lot of kind of on a cut bank, but there was a lot of shallowness to it, and
so it was kind of like a distance from the water.
It was distant from the water, up on a bluff, and so you had some logistics and everything. And the lodge itself, it was a main lodge, and then it was a bunkhouse that only had 2 bathrooms at the end. And so I would, at that year that I was out wintertime out promoting it, I'd have a couple guys come by the booth, and I'd tell them, and they're like, everything's good, checking the boxes. Yep. Okay, well, we're bringing our wives. Tell me about the bathrooms. I go, well, we're in a bunkhouse. There's 2 bathrooms at the end of the hall. We're out. And so I kind of was saving all this information. And that year that we ran it in 95, I asked every single person that came through, why'd you book it? Why'd you come here? What was it? And I got a lot of feedback for it. And so 95 goes away, trying to buy a lodge in 96. And we have a client, Gary Sampson and I had a client that had been to Big Mountain Lodge, and she'd been there 4 times and in the 2 years that we owned it. And so we cut a deal with her. There was a lodge upriver that an older lodge, and there was an older couple from Fairbanks that owned it. Don Haugen was his name, and they were ready to sell. And so we cut a deal to buy their lodge with this backing from Sandra. Her name was Sandra Ames. So Sandra was the financial person, and she owned a trucking company in Texas, and heavy equipment, not trucking, but heavy equipment. So like John Deere and Caterpillar tractors. And she sold that and traded that and everything. And so, I mean, you got to understand, she came to Lodge 4 times in 2 years, right? And
yeah, loving it.
Yeah.
Right. And so, and the financial commitment of that too. So we're going, all right, well, she's got to be well-heeled enough. And so we had the deal. She put up the earnest money, and it was $50,000. And we're supposed to have a meeting on July 1st of 1996 in Las Vegas. And Gary and I are at the hotel in Las Vegas. We're waiting for her to show up. And that's before these things, these cell phones, so we're sitting in the room waiting for the phone to ring. And we call her office, and we're like, hey, where's Sandra at? And they're like, she came in a week ago, and we don't know where she's at. She's gone. We're like, what do you mean she's gone? And yeah, she packed up and disappeared. We haven't heard from her. I'm like, what? We get a phone call later that afternoon, and I can envision it, Southwest Texas, how a deserted road, the gas station that's all by itself, and tumbleweed blowing down, the sign swinging, and they're at a payphone. And Sandra's daughter says, hey, Brian, we're not doing the lodge. We can't do it. Nobody's going to come looking for the money. It's not ours, but you can use it, and but we can't do the deal. And I hear Sandra in the background telling her what to say. And I say, hey, can I talk to Sandra? Let me talk to her. And she goes, there is no Sandra. I don't know what you're talking about. Click, hangs up. I'm like, what? So, we meet a lot of interesting people in the lodge business. And I had a client that was a bodyguard to U.S. presidents. And his name was Dale Wunderlich. And Dale had come and fished with us at Big Mountain Lodge. So I call up Dale, and he's got a private eye company now out of Colorado Springs. And I call him up, and this was 20 years ago, or almost 30 years ago now. But I call up Dale, and I say, hey, Dale, can you find out about this Sandra Ames? And he goes, sure. And give me your information. So I give him the information, and he called me back a couple days later and said, Brian, I've got top-level security clearance for the United States government. If I can't find somebody, I got a guy that can find that person. He can't find her. So she doesn't exist. I go, what are you talking about?
How the hell?
And he goes, she's so high up in the witness protection program, there's probably only a couple people in the world that know where she's at. And he goes, it's a really good thing you didn't go into business with her. I'm like, holy cow.
Holy shit.
But now what do? I got this deal that I don't have the horsepower, the financial horsepower to put together. So now I start scrambling. I'm calling up Cal Worthington. I'm calling up, you guys are.
Oh yeah.
Cal,
Pussy cow.
I'm calling up him. I'm calling up other people and trying to get this deal. And I call up this banker that he was at the lodge with these two other guys that were kind of, you could tell that they were pretty well heeled, and they had just opened up Midway Island to sport fishing. And these guys were military contractors. They were both ex-Air Force, and they were military contractors. And one of them was a consultant to the president, and he was actually had worked with Senator Stevens quite a bit. And so I call up this banker he's out of Atlanta, Georgia, and he's got the drawl. And I call him up and I say, hey, Steve, you want to buy a lodge with me in Alaska? And he goes, Brian, I'm the president of the bank. I loan people money. I sure don't have a lot of money. Says, call David. He'll do the deal. And so I called this guy, David Sandlin, and I call him up and I said, hey, David, you want to buy this lodge with me in Alaska? And he doesn't even hesitate. And he goes, sure thing. I go, really? And he goes, yep. He goes, I'll be on the next plane tomorrow morning. And sure enough, flew up from Atlanta, and he came up, and we hopped in my 185 and Cessna 185. We flew out to this lodge that was right at the outlet of Lake Iliamna, and we go to it, and it was really run down and it needed a lot of TLC. And David looks at me and goes, Brian, you sure you want to do this? I mean, and I go, yeah, David, it's 10 acres on the Kujak River. I mean, yeah, let's do it. We'll make it work. We'll make it nice. And, I was getting to know David at the time. He had been at the lodge for 3 days, but, I didn't really know David. And he goes, all right. And so we sit down, and we're talking with Don. And Don was an old curmudgeon, and he had a pretty grumpy guy. And David says, okay, look, I know the deal says you're supposed to close on this on October 31st of 1996, but I've got some situations, and I got some tax situations. I can close on January 2nd. So we got to move the deal 3 months. And Don Haugen goes, nope, if they change the deal, there's no deal. So there's no deal. And I can feel it today. I can feel David slapping me on the back. I'm sitting in a chair. He slaps me on the back, and he goes, good, come on, Brian, the place is a dump. Let's go. And he turns around. He walks out, and he's sitting in my airplane. And I look at Don. I'm like, that's the deal. That's it. There you go. Yep. You want to? And Don's like, nope, no deal. And I'm like, so I get in the airplane, I fly David back. I'm begging. I'm like, you sure? He goes, Brian, some things are just meant not to be, and it's not meant to be. I was like, okay. Fly him back, put him on the plane. He goes back to Atlanta. And I'm like, I'm not giving up on this. And so I went and I researched native allotments, and I found a native allotment, 160 acres on the Kujak River, 4 miles downstream, vacant land. And I researched that, and I found it, and I found out who the owner was, and found out where he was living on the east side of Lake Iliamna. I flew my plane to him, and I landed, and I started knocking on doors, and I said, does anybody know where Wassi is? And, these small communities everybody knows. And said, yeah, he's 6 houses down over here on the left. And so I walk, and I knock on the door, and Wassi spoke, decent English, but mostly Yupik. And so I grabbed him and his brother, who spoke a little bit better English, and threw him in the airplane, flew him to the site, walked the site, had the map, and says, is this yours? And he says, yep. I said, you want to sell it? He says, no. And I said, you want to lease it? He goes, sure. We shook hands. I put him back in the plane, flew back to Anchorage, called up David and said, David, you want to build a lodge with me in Alaska? And he says, Brian, do you know anything about building a lodge in Alaska? I said, David, how hard can it be? And he goes, okay. He goes, I got one condition. He says, we do not cut corners. He said, we're going to do it. We're going to do it right. We're going to build it. And we're going to have the world-class lodge. I said, that's great, David. I said, I got one condition. You are got way more financial horsepower than I have. We have to be 50-50 on this because I have to be able to, I have to have some guidance or, some direction and some ability that if you just run this as a toy and we have a cash call, I'm going to be out. And so, I didn't know that I wouldn't need that with David because David is honorable and a man of his word and just super, super team oriented. It's always a we. It's not never a me. He doesn't have an ego involved in it. It's always whatever's best for we, for us, and for the company. And so we cut the deal and built Alaska Sportsman's Lodge in 1997. And we hauled in 450,000 pounds of material. We were Linden Air Cargo's first revenue flight on their Herc, their C-130.
Oh, really?
That Jim Jansen had brought in. And so we flew that into a 3,000-foot gravel strip. You get an aircraft that's hauling 44,000 pounds of lumber in it. And at a time, and landing that thing on a 3,000-foot strip, it was unbelievably impressive. So we did that. We had 6 C-130s and 7 DC-3 loads, plus my 185, flying as much stuff as back and forth, and pitched a tent with a cup of barbecue. Pitched 2 tents. I had one contractor. His name's Lee Nyman. He's still working in Alaska. I'll say whatever the word is. I'll give him a plug. And Lee Nyman.
Shout out.
Shout out. Thank you. Lee Nyman, Hardy Construction out of the Valley, makes custom homes. But we were his first project that he had branched out on. He was working for somebody else. And Lee was unbelievable. It was a one-man show, and he was out there. He was the only guy that knew anything about construction. I had a bunch of hockey players and me, and there's 6 of us out there full-time running material down. We had to float it down river in the boat by, getting it down. We'd do that. We'd start at 6 a.m, and we'd finish at midnight every night. And we built that lodge. We started in June, and we had clients on August 17th.
Oh,
and
really?
Wow.
Built the main lodge and built the 4 cabins, had power, had plumbing, had refrigeration system, everything. And so it doesn't look anything now. It's a little bit more polished.
It was pretty raw.
Yeah, it was raw, but it was great fishing and everything. So that's kind of how we got into it, and the little twists and turns throughout the whole deal. But yeah, it's been an unbelievable ride. And, people like in the village of Igiagig, I've had an unbelievable relationship with them. And, then now you fast forward into Pebble and all that. And, that year that we built it, I was in a really horrible airplane crash. I had an engine situation, but I had a crash, and fortunately everybody was okay. I did have Dave Doucette was in the plane. Unfortunately, that kind of ended his hockey. Wasn't playing hockey with us anymore. He broke a ankle on it. But point is, for some reason, I was spared on that aircraft incident, and I probably shouldn't have been. It was pretty bad. But and then here comes Pebble, and 19 years ago, I had the opportunity to have an education on it, and I had the financial wherewithal and capabilities to do research on it, and kind of take the bull by the horn and throw the first punch in the battle. And it's a pretty emotional deal when you sit there and you look at it and you look at what could have been lost and what could have been destroyed and never gotten back to where it is. And I feel just an unbelievably strong connection with the people of Igiagig. Those folks that have been there, they've documented for 2,000 years. They've been in that location, and it's pretty impressive. And I feel just very fortunate to be where I'm at. And
how is the Pebble mine? It's still a battle, or is it done? It's they kind of said it's done, but it's still lingering.
Well, there's always litigation, right? And so right now there was a plan that was put forth, and originally the Corps of Engineers had agreed it. So in any kind of plan, any kind of project that has to that has anything to do with waters of the U.S., so any wetlands, any waters of the U.S., you have to get this 404 permit from the Army Corps of Engineers. Army Corps of Engineers has that authority under the Clean Water Act in 1972 to be the agency that permits these big projects. EPA has oversight on that. So Army Corps of Engineers gives the permit. EPA can say, yes, you did everything right, and go ahead and go through with it. EPA has vetoed those 404 permits 14 times since 1972. It's only in the most egregious of situations. We asked the EPA to preemptively, before the mine permit had been applied for, preemptively use that authority to veto the project, because we said, you know what's going to happen there. We've seen their plans. We've seen everything that they're going to do. You can't move the ore body. It is where it is. They have to disrupt the water there. They have to invade it. There's going to be long-term contamination. Use your authority now. Let's put this out of its misery. And the EPA didn't do that. They went on a long journey of public testimony. They had peer review of all the plans and everything. And they came up and they said, yeah, it's going to do irreversible damage to about 90 miles of salmon-bearing stream and have adverse effects on so many square miles. And anyways, that decision got litigated, and there was a stay where the EPA couldn't use that authority for a period of 4 years, from 2016 to 2020. And so in 2018, the Army Corps of Engineers gave them the permit. They said, yep, you've picked the... And the thing that's tough about that is when these permits get applied for, they give 3 different scenarios. Like 1, we're going to dump all the tailings in Lake Iliamna. 2, we're going to dump them all in Lake Clark. And 3, we're going to put them over here and where they really want to put them, right? And that's their plan. But they give you 2 other alternatives that are really bad. So the Corps goes, well, yeah, this is the least environmentally impacting decision or option, so we'll okay that one, even though it's still bad, right? Yeah. That's a small example. So anyways, Army Corps of Engineers says yes on the permit. And then word gets out about that. Tucker Carlson interviews Johnny Morris from Bass Pro. Johnny Morris says, hey, it's not a right or left issue. It's a outdoors issue, and outdoors bring us together. There's some places we shouldn't do things like this. I was fortunate enough, 3 weeks later, Tucker interviewed us, and we're bringing national attention to it now. And that actually gave the Republicans cover to say, you know what, we can get in front of this as well. And then a few days later, just by pure coincidence, the Pebble tapes come out where there's a sting operation where the CEO and the chairman of the board get caught on video saying how they've got our senators in their pocket and the governor in our pocket and this and that and everything. And
I remember those sound bites.
Yeah. And so, anyways, things kind of aligned, and but it was through a huge amount of grassroots efforts. We first started this out. I created the Bristol Bay Alliance in 2004. And the Bristol Bay Alliance purpose was that the people of Bristol Bay had the loudest voice in what happens out there with the lands. And I created a organization that was educational. And it wasn't really pro or against, it had a little slant against, but I hired an environmental scientist. His name was Scott Brennan. And I had Scott put together PowerPoint presentations, and we went out to all the villages and just said, here's what mining is. Here's what it does. Here's what you need to be aware of. Here's what you need to, here's the good things about it. Here's some financial opportunities, but here's what's environmentally, you're going to deal with. And I set up tours. We took field trips to Butte, Montana, to Winnemucca, Nevada, to Salt Lake City to look at these mines. Because what we found out was when we went to all these villages, on the New Shagak River, so Equa, Kaliganek, New Stuyahuk, and we'd go to the ones around the lake, Iliamna, Pedro Bay, Port Allsworth, Non-Dalton, and we'd go into there, and everybody, the auditoriums would be packed for these presentations. First question I would ask when I start them out is I'd say, hey, has anybody seen a mine? Has anybody seen a large open pit mine? And not one person ever that we had gone to all those villages said, yes, they'd seen one. I said, we got to get people out there. We got to see, I want to see them. Yeah. I want to see the size and scope of these things and talk to people that have experienced them. What happened in Butte, Montana? What was it? And boom and bust, and how did, and anyways, so we did that, and we kept it local, and the local people have the most knowledge of the area. And it's not knowledge that's written down or anything. It's all here in their brain.
Right.
And it's passed on in their soul. It's passed on from generation to generation. And one of the epiphany moments that I had was when we were building Alaska Sportsman's Lodge. I had one of the elders from Igiugig came down, and he must have been in his late 70s at the time, but he came down, he grabbed my wrist, and he grabbed it hard, and he said, "Brian, take care of the water." I'm like, "Yeah, Mikey, no problem, I'll take care of it." You know, I'm a kid from Chicago. I turn on the faucet, water comes out, right? I mean, living in Anchorage, I got water. I never give water a second thought, right? But he grabs me, and I said, "Yeah, Mikey, no problem." And he turns and he looks at me and goes, "Take care of the water. It's in my soul. It's who I am." I swear, I mean, what are we talking about here? You know, it was like the weight of that, and it was enormous. And I didn't know at that time, but, you know, here I am now leading this battle to protect that water in this region. And so the local people had a really strong motivating factor for me that was sometimes very daunting, that there was this weight on my shoulders. Not that I was going to be the guy, but I had no idea how to fight a mining company or how to be an NGO or how to move the dial in Washington, D.C. I mean, are you kidding me? I'm just some hockey player kid that happens to run a fishing lodge, right? Yeah. And so, but I, you know, the group grew very quickly. Mr. Gillam in town here, Bob Gillam was instrumental in helping fund a lot of the advertising and you know, Bob's goal was that he wanted everybody in Juneau to have to weigh in on this. And then we used that, and then Trout Unlimited came in, and Trout Unlimited was huge in taking it on a national level. And we kept it local, and we kept it local on purpose, because if people of Alaska, which, you know, 75% of people of Alaska say we should be drilling at Anwar tomorrow, that same 75% of the people in Alaska say that we should not be doing pebble mine. So we knew that, okay, our messaging is getting out. You know, this is a unique resource extraction project that in the state of Alaska should be really scrutinized and maybe not done. And so once we had that local Alaskans support, now we knew we could take it national. Because if we would have taken it national first and had the, you know, the nature conservancies and World Wildlife Funds and stuff like that coming in and telling Alaskans, no, you shouldn't do this, you know, then we would have been...
That was a good move, man.
We would have been...
Yeah, you got to build a foundation for support first, right?
Right. Well, I mean, if the people of Bristol Bay would have been saying, yeah, we want it, who am I to say no, right?
Yeah.
And so I really genuinely wanted them to have the say in it. And Bristol Bay Native Corporation, the leadership through Jason Matrokin, was unbelievable. You know, they were methodical. They studied it. They could have financially gained tremendous on this.
I bet.
But they said, you know what? We don't want it. It's not in our culture. It's not in line step with what we want to have. We'll make money other ways. There's other ways to do it. And so things just kind of really came together. And but it was an emotional fight. I mean, there were many times where I had tears, you know, just going, I'm standing at Lower Tulare Creek and looking at this and going, are you kidding me? We're talking about, and I would juxtapose what I saw in the lower 48 from these mines and just put it right there.
Dig a big pit right there.
2 mile radius pit, 2,000 feet deep, and then all the destruction and it's the seepiness. And our water table's at 6 feet there. It's all interconnected. We've documented salmon in what look like from the air landlocked streams, so they have no river access, right? So that means they're swimming underground. It's all interconnected out there. Anyways, I started that off in this whole diatribe about talking about the people of Igiugig, who I just feel strongly emotionally connected to. I feel grateful for their support. They've been unbelievable supportive of our business. You know, we're visitors there. We are a customer, but at the same time, you know, this is their lands and their heritage that we're very sensitive about, to be very in cohesive working nature with. So, yeah.
Man, that was great.
Yeah. No, man, I was so unbelievably engaged in every word that just came out of your mouth, man. Because I'm not educated to that level on this subject, but to hear that there was so much focus on the local support, you know, to like they had to accept it to make it a reality, no matter what, right?
Yeah.
Like there was just, it didn't matter the amount of money, the the carrot that was dangled, right? Like you can make financially, this would be a huge gain. Right. For that region.
I mean, there was people that were in support of it that were in the region, and they had seen the financial opportunities with it. And is there a shortage of jobs in there? Yeah. Does the commercial fishery have some problems? Yeah. The people that live on the east side, they don't participate in the CDQ program. Why not? They should. I mean, when the CDQ program came out, it was a map of you had to be this only X number of miles away from the ocean. Well,
what's CDQ?
Commercial development quota. It's the program for the millions and millions of dollars going to. It's a federal fish tax that goes in. And
back to the people
commercial
of the
fisheries.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And so they get to participate in that, which means they get cheaper loans, or they can do things, upgrades of the boats. They get slush ice into it and stuff like that. So, anyways. The people on the east side, they call it east side, basically Lake Iliamna drainage, that happen to live in Non-Dalton or Port Allsworth or Pedro Bay or Igiagig, they didn't get to participate in those programs. So they're looking at Pebble going, whoa, this is our
why not
golden goose, right? So we get to participate in this. And for most of them, especially like Igiagig, stayed steadfast. So did Pedro Bay. Pedro Bay was phenomenal in it, and that they just were absolute no. We're not, no matter how much money you throw at us. And they left a lot of money on, Pebble was throwing around millions and millions of dollars just to have, a memorandum of understandings that you're going to work with them. And, those villages, they said, no, it's not in our culture. It's not what we want. And
there was a willingness to listen, though.
A willingness to listen. Yeah.
Yeah.
And there was, people participated on their focus or study groups and stuff like that. Yeah. And, some of them were like, I'd rather have a seat at the table, even though I may not agree with it, but I want to have that level of insight as what they're planning, what they're doing.
Learn about it.
Right. And so, the people of Bristol Bay, the residents of Bristol Bay, are the most knowledgeable about what's going on with fish and game and nature. I mean, they know, the wind's blowing out of the north. That means this is going to happen, and the Kings aren't going to come here, or the soccer. I mean, it's unbelievable, right?
Sure.
And again, it's not on Google or anything like that.
Yeah.
It's in their brain. It's in their heritage. It's been passed down from generation to generation. So,
wow,
that's beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah, way to make it inclusive and bring everyone together, and the learnings, and bring people outside the state. That's super impressive, and that's the type of people we need in Alaska.
Thanks. Well, it was it was tough. There was certainly people that thought of like, hey, look, this is definitely economic opportunities and jobs, and mining and fisheries can coexist. But it's. I agree that we need minerals. I mean, we've got them all on our phones. We're doing it right now. We're using them. But there's proper places to do it and places not to do it, right? And when the risk, the consequences for mistakes, and mining, they try and get it right. I'm not going to disparage them. They will make a plan. They're trying to get it right. But a lot of it's guessing, right? Yeah. They don't know until they start digging. Right. Where is that water going to go? What's going to happen here? How much is it going to leach? There's a lot of intangibles, a lot of things that you don't know until you start the process. And that's why, they've contaminated the aquifers in Winnemucca, Nevada, in the desert. They didn't mean to. They didn't try to. But now they got to truck water into everybody. Can't drink it out of the faucet. That just happens, right?
Right.
It's irreversible.
And it's irreversible. So although we need minerals, as a society, we better be smart about it. Let's do it in right ways. And I agree, we should be doing it in the United States because our standards are the highest, but we shouldn't be doing it in the heart of Bristol Bay, where if you do make a mistake, the consequences are catastrophic and irreplaceable, irreversible.
Truly the last frontier. Yeah, it's really interesting how we, Alaska in general, like where we get our funds from. We have oil, rich in resources. We're fishing.
Tourism.
And we look at the fishing and how it's been depleted just through my generation. And, this year was the first year we're not king crabbing. And then there's not a lot of people doing things to generate more industry. You building a lodge out there, that's driving more business here. Like, what other things are we doing here to not rely on natural resources? And so one of the other views that I've kind of mentioned to people that are pro the mine is, do we really want to strip all of Alaska right now? So we finish all of our oil, and then what's next? We'll get this mine and then that. Like, why don't we work on other things? And we have to bring more industry to Alaska for us to exist and our kids to exist here and our kids' kids and our kids' kids' kids. And if we don't, then all of our natural resources will be depleted and we won't have any source of income here.
Well, so Alaska is blessed with having the most stunning natural beauty in the country. Right. So, I mean, obviously the program Yellowstone's huge, and, right? And it brings a lot of attention to Yellowstone. Alaska's got 15 Yellowstones, right? I mean, our national parks and just even our state parks, the tourism opportunities, although the season is short, are massive. Yeah. And when this Pebble battle first got going, I remember talking to BB&C about it, about why aren't you guys in the tourism business? Why aren't you guys, why doesn't BB&C own a lodge in every single village? You guys own the lands. You know what? And even if it breaks even, you're bringing in money from the outside.
That's right.
That's paying for chefs. It's paying for guides. It's paying for pilots. It's paying for marketing people. And so I was so happy to see BB&C come into the tourism business as far as, but they bought a lodge over by Dillingham, Mission Lodge, and then they bought Katmai. So they bought, they operate, there's a concession at Brooks, they got Kulik Lodge, and they got Grosvenor. So they're heavily invested now in the tourism business, which is fantastic. It's what we should be, you know.
Yeah.
But to your point, we need to bring more industry, more jobs into the state of Alaska, but they don't have to be jobs that are going to destroy other opportunities, right?
Yep. Yeah, environmentally
absolutely
impactful.
And so we should definitely be capturing on something that's been given to us through nature. And that's whenever you have beautiful nature, beautiful settings like this, they're going to attract attention. And Alaskans, we've found ways to monetize that, right? Yeah. And so whether it be through ecotours, bear viewing, photography, sightseeing, whatever it is. And again, I know the season is short, but we can find ways to keep generating that into it. Our fisheries are another one that we need to have strong leadership in Juneau and protect, and on the federal level as well. We need strong protection from it. The stuff that's getting, these high seas, heavy, long liners that are raping the bottom of the ocean. I mean, that's got to be curtailed. I mean, something's got to be done. We can't keep raping the bottom of the ocean like that.
Yeah. We were just talking about the trawlers last week, weren't we?
Yep.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Can't even figure out what that was.
Well, you mentioned
50 miles.
Yeah, 50, yeah. You mentioned an actually interesting thing, whereas most Alaskans, we are pro maybe mining for oil or digging for oil up there where it's, low impact versus when the Pebble mine thing, I mean, I don't know very many people that were like, yeah, let's do that.
The people that had financial gain, had financial. It was either mining industry. The mining industry really coalesce around each other. They are, but we did start to see cracks in the mining industry, meaning that there were people that were involved in mining that were going, that Pebble's probably not the best thing because it's now going to give us a black eye, and we want to expand at Fort Knox or we want to expand at Red Dog, and now we're dealing with Pebble, and if Pebble would have gone through and there would have been a catastrophic event there. I mean, you think it's hard to get a permit in California. It would have been impossible to get one here after
long game. It would have crippled mining, maybe.
Right. Could have been disastrous for it.
Because now they don't have to worry about that.
Right. It was the best mining decisions are location. Take location into account. And so let's do mining. Let's do it right. Let's have the highest standards that we do in the world for doing it right. And then do them in the right locations where if you do make a mistake or you predicted that the water was going to go to the right, but it goes to the left, or there's something that's contaminated, it doesn't have a catastrophic event on a fishery or a habitat that supports a fishery.
Yeah. And it's so fragile, right?
Unbelievably fragile.
You said the water table is 6 foot?
Yeah, up by where Pebble was looking at, we had documentation that it was 6 feet deep, so soon, and there's all kinds of reverse hydrology that was going to be happening. I mean, it's just, it would have been very tough to manage the water. And that's the Achilles heel of every mine, because you got to keep it dry while you're mining the pit and the ore. So how do you keep that water from flowing in there? Dewater. And now you've interrupted. Where can it go? Can you Can you replicate a naturally flowing stream
reroute
and habitat?
No way.
Right.
Yeah.
Wow.
So is Salmon Fest somehow attached?
Yep.
How is that connected?
So Anders Hedberg started that out. Actually, I want to say, he was working for Mr. Gillam, Bob Gillam, and it was kind of a deal of like, how do we celebrate, salmon? And we kind of said, well, let's do this Salmon Fest thing. I think Trout Unlimited was involved as well, and it just kind of started out as a celebration down in the Nikiski area, and then it just massively grown. Now it's like a 4 or 5 day long festival, and bring in really, really good singers and musicians, and so it's grown quite it's not Pebble specific, it's celebration of salmon, but obviously Pebble was a major component to that.
Yeah, I was pretty impressed by like the short little talks they would have before different bands and shows would happen. Like someone knowledgeable would come up and talk about different things.
They would have a little
current events or just about the salmon industry, and Pebble Mine actually came up.
Did they have that? Got me thinking. Do they have like Turkey Fest or other things?
Wild elk,
Manatee Fest,
Wild Sheep Fest,
things like that in other states.
Salmon. When you have a salmon-based economy and salmon-based culture, that salmon feed everything.
Yeah.
I say it in our video that the salmon of Bristol Bay feed the world, and
that's true.
You have cultures that survive off of healthy salmon runs, and so we've spent billions of dollars trying to bring back salmon to the Pacific Northwest without success. Here we have it functioning properly and naturally and intact. All we have to do is take care of it.
Yeah, don't fuck it up.
Don't screw it up, right?
I'll say it for you. Don't fuck it up.
Yeah,
that was great. Thank you for that. That was heavy, actually. I felt like that was heavy.
Yeah.
I didn't mean to get too heavy.
No, that was good. That's good. We're gonna take a break, and we're gonna lighten it up on the back end here for all you guys.
We're gonna have fun on the next session.
Yeah. We'll take a good one. We'll come back and see how your trivia game is.
I'm not too good at trivia.
Yeah. Okay. Good. Because we aren't either.
My trivia is fun, but
Tailored Restoration, 24-hour emergency home services, helping Alaskans restore their dreams since 1972. Services include fire, water, mold, post-emergency cleaning, repair, and remodeling. Tailored has an emergency response number with trained professionals available to help you at any time, day or night. Give them a call in Anchorage, Eagle River, Mat-Su, or Fairbanks. Make an appointment today at tailoredrestorationalaska.com. Total Truck and Alaska Overlander, Alaska's premier supplier for custom automotive accessories and overlanding products, providing all-inclusive rental vehicles and trailers custom outfitted to explore the Alaskan backcountry with a unique and convenient traveling experience. At Total Truck, you can find brands such as ARE, RSI Smart Caps, Goose Gear, iCamper, Frontrunner, Rigid Lights, Rhino Linings bed liners, and everything you need to outfit your truck or SUV. Alaska Overlander provides 4x4 vehicles and expedition trailers, custom modified for Alaskan adventures and outfitted with rooftop tents, fridges, and all the camping and cooking gear you need to start exploring. Visit them at alaskaoverlander.com.
I just want to bring a couple quick current events that are coming up before we get back on the show here. We have the BHA Russian River cleanup going on June 9th through the 11th. If you're going to be out in that area and you enjoy the Kenai and the Russian River area, be sure to look up at BHA Alaska, Backcountry Hunters and Anglers of Alaska. They're doing a big cleanup up there. There's also a lot of other cleanups going on. There's going to be the Ship Creek cleanup. I know there's the Eagle River Highland kind of area cleanup. Golcana cleanup, so be on the lookout for some of that stuff. If you got a free couple of hours, it's always good to get out there and just pick up some trash or some things like that to get the ball rolling there. So thank you also to all the Patreon members and everyone that's supporting us buying our merch and stuff like that. It's really helpful. Thank you for everyone for that. And Jack will be right back and we'll get the trivia going. And then we'll want to jump into what the lodge is looking like nowadays and some funny stories that we heard from JJ and some of this, and Billy Crum and some of these other guys that maybe had a good experience out there with the wildlife and stuff like that.
I don't know if those are valid stories. I think I have to verify that those actually happened at some point. These guys are known to embellish a little bit.
That's all right. That makes them very entertaining.
You have to know where the source is on some of this stuff.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Yeah.
Oh, so before the trivia, real quick. So what was there any connection to the drug, like the Colombian drug dealers and stuff to the?
No,
nothing ever came back to haunt you on any of that?
Actually, so Gary and I were drinking beers one night, and we're at the lodge, and I go, Colombian drug cart. Maybe we should start knocking on some of these walls and find some money, right?
Walls. Yeah, sure.
Pounds of cocaine.
Then we went, oh, wait a minute. It's the Colombian drug cartel. We don't want to fight it. Stop. We don't want to fight anything.
You don't even. You don't want that money. Do you value your life? Yes, I do.
But another little funny tangent story on that is, I'm not a hard guy to find in this town, especially when I was closer to my hockey playing days and stuff. All right, Friday night, Sullivan Arena. All right, yeah, go find them, right?
Yeah.
Well, I'm at the lodge, at Alaska Sportsman's Lodge. I built it in, I don't know, this might have been, what do I call it? I'm just going to say like 2010, okay, 2012, whatever. Anyways, I was late. I would change out. So guests leave and new guests come in. And the new guests were in, and we always do that late afternoon, early evening. And so they're sitting down, they're having dinner. Well, I had missed the change out, and I was at one of the other lodges, and I flew in. And so I'm standing there talking at the dining room table. I introduced myself. Hey, guys, I'm Brian Kraft. I'm one of the owners of the lodge, and just wanted to welcome you, and thanks for coming. And anyways, have a safe and enjoyable experience. And I get done, and guy stands up in the back corner, and he is chiseled, and he's like 6'3", and he's got a jawline like it's iron. He's shaved head, Bruce Willis shaved head. And he looks at me and goes, Brian Kraft, I've been wanting to talk to you. And he points his finger at me like this. I'm like, I'm married. I'm faithful. what is going on? And so I go back and sit next to him. His name's Bob Keene. And Bob Keene was the lead FBI agent on the bust of Big Mountain.
Oh, no way.
And he he's working for Doyon Services here in town, and it's not like he couldn't find me and all these years.
Anytime,
yeah. But anyways, he was a guest at the lodge at the time, and so we sit down and we talk for hours about that, and just it was amazing. And he said what the thing that wrapped this all together was there was never, because I asked him, were they doing drugs there? What was the money? And he goes, nothing ever came through there, but they handled the logistics through there. They handled their communications because they figured Alaska, nobody would be listening in.
No one would listen to that, yeah.
And the government was, but they couldn't, they still needed another piece, and that piece was this little book that had everybody's name in it that visited the lodge. So Al Capone or whatever, I'm just making it Lucky Luciano, whatever the names were of these guys that were involved in it, and had all their names in the book, and that book was at the lodge. And that was the one piece of evidence that he said that tied this whole thing together, because now they could put Lucky Luciani at that lodge. This was his voice connected to that date.
Oh,
and that
man.
Hooked them all in. And so, anyways.
A remote lodge in Alaska.
Yeah.
Wow.
And that lodge.
Cool. That is so rad, dude.
The unfortunate thing is that lodge doesn't operate. The attorney ended up running into it. It's a local attorney guy, and he ended up running it into the ground. And
to this day, it's not?
Now it doesn't anymore, yeah. No, it doesn't. And it was a mess, but.
Wow.
Yeah.
Now it's probably just weathered and ruined forever.
It's dilapidated. It's
yeah.
done.
Is that right?
Yeah.
And then there's no commitment to go clean it up.
Yeah, the village will take care of it. The village has got plans of taking care of it, and so.
Okay. Yeah. Oh, because it's on their leased land.
It's an individual Native Alaskan. It's a Native allotment,
Okay.
and that's the other thing. That Native allotment owner, he ended up losing out big time on it. Because
for sure,
right. Yeah,
lost all of his rent.
Yeah, all the revenue, and it could have his heirs. Now he's passed, but his heirs.
Yeah, it's passed down to family members that maybe don't have the same passion or love for it. Yeah.
What a bummer.
Well, thanks for sharing that story, man. That is cool. But can we admit something real quick? Because before you came on, we're like, hey, man, I wonder if you'd be cool talking about the backstory.
Yeah.
So when you threw the cartel thing out, we're like, pumping. Like, yes. He's already going to talk about it. We don't even have to ask him.
Well, that's not even the backstory. There's a backstory to the backstory.
Is that okay? Is that the off the mic story or what?
I'm kidding. No, that's it. You got all the dirt right
All
there.
right.
Other than what Billy and JJ have told you.
Yeah. Well, take that with a grain of salt.
Yeah, running them to the dirt.
You got to remember, I coached those kids, right? I call them kids, they were kids when I was coaching them, right? So they might have a little axe to grind. I didn't put them on the power play or something. I don't know.
They shouldn't have cut them.
Yeah.
Trust me, they love you, Coach.
They do that.
Just went out to a bait station with Billy Crum here a couple weekends ago.
Yeah, he's a big bow hunter now.
Yeah,
he's really got.
Yeah, he's got it. Actually, Billy, you need to go down to Full Curl and get your damn bow. Dave almost sold it by mistake. Yeah.
Oh, he's got it all set up and then.
Maybe I should go.
Well, he had it hanging up, and he was like, "Yeah, I was selling a bow." And he's like, "Oh wait, this is Billy's."
Yeah.
Hung it back up.
Yeah, Billy told me I need to go down because I don't bow hunt. We've got some property down in Montana that we're building up, and that you can only bow hunt on it.
Oh, nice.
So I was telling Billy I need to get into that. He goes, "Yeah, go down and see Dave at Full Curl. He'll take care of you big time." So maybe I should go get that bow.
I know he happens to be down in Yakutat right now, so it's just sitting right there right now waiting for you.
Perfect.
It's good timing. All right, Jackie, hit us with it.
All right. So, first question is what's Alaska's biggest lake and what's its depth, width, and length?
Do I get to participate?
You're last.
Oh, absolutely.
You are, for
Yeah.
sure. You get to go last, though, because you're the most knowledgeable on this.
I believe it's Iliamna. Depth, width, and length.
Yeah.
Depth is 127 feet. Width is 32 miles wide. Length is, I'm just so guessing right now. Length is 83 miles long.
Cool.
Ooh, close.
Okay, good.
I mean,
All right, I'm going to say Iliamna as well.
all right.
And for length, I'm going to say 96 miles length. And for width, I'm going to say
I didn't look at
6
the map.
miles. Okay,
Oh,
wide.
shit.
And
It's
then,
skinnier.
what would you say, depth?
Yeah,
And
depth.
you said 183?
137.
I'm going to say 336.
What did I say width again? I said like
32. All right.
Well, I don't. This could be embarrassing if I don't get it right, but I'm going to say that Lake Iliamna is Alaska's largest lake. It's 1,000 feet deep, 90 miles long, and 30 miles wide.
Nailed it.
1,000 feet deep.
Wow.
I was
massive.
impressed that it was that
Did
deep.
I say
And then
127?
137.
Yeah.
I mean, it's where the monster lives, right? It's where Ellie
That's
lives.
right.
Oh, yeah.
Have you ever seen it?
Nope. There's people that. Well, I can't say their names because they will want to get all kinds of Facebook messages or whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's people that say that they've seen it.
Did they have a story along with it? How much?
They don't like the red boats.
Oh, really?
Oh.
Interesting. It
Yeah.
bumps them, or
It'll attack them, kill them.
Whoa.
Wow.
Good to
Wow.
know.
Well, I have seen like the images from like I think they believe they're sturgeon,
Big sturgeon. Yeah.
big sturgeon that are swimming up in there.
I think there's something, David, my partner, David Sandlin, he's always said, let's go fish down deep there.
Yeah.
I'm not a big deep sea guy or anything, but, David is, we should go try and find some down there. There's probably some
Oh,
big
yeah.
things down there.
Wow. Put a
yeah,
line
the
down
monster
there and see.
search.
1,000.
Man, let's go
feet
do that. That'd be
deep.
fun.
A lake.
Yeah.
So none of you guys have fished it?
Not out deep. We fish about, quarter mile out. We'll
Right.
fish for rainbows
Yeah.
that are moving into the lake.
Mhm.
But, there's not, that lake gets kicked up. I mean, it can be
Ooh,
dangerous.
I bet.
The wind rips through
Does
there.
that have tides?
No tides.
No tides on that one.
Nope.
When you get out in the middle, have you ever been in the middle?
Yeah, well, what feels like the middle, but you're just a couple miles offshore.
Oh, okay, yeah, I guess so. You can still see.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can
15.
see. You can see.
Yeah.
And it's actually stunning when you're at the outlet right at Igiagig there, right at the mouth of the river, and that's the headwaters of the river. And you look across on a clear day, you can see Mount Iliamna, and I mean it's just
Yeah.
unbelievable. I mean, you see all around the lake, and it's stunning. It's
Amazing.
breathtaking.
Epic.
Yeah.
I've never been out there. I was
I haven't
check
either.
it out.
Is it a
Yeah.
pretty windy lake?
Yeah. It can get windy.
Aren't all lakes pretty windy?
Yeah. Are there many days that you get a whole day that you would feel comfortable being in the middle?
Well, yeah, I mean, there's days where it's flat calm, but I
Yeah.
mean, the trouble is it can kick up at any
Out of
time.
nowhere. Yeah.
Yeah, it's not like you want to go out there and test it out.
Right.
Yeah. Man,
I mean, there's barge service. There's a barge that comes across.
Yeah.
Ray Williams, Williamsport. They'll bring a barge across and stuff. But
Where they're running in the middle big water.
yeah, but they pick it. They pick their days, and the commercial fishermen come over too, right? So there's a portage from guys on the Cook Inlet side will come over to Williamsport, which is on the west side of Cook Inlet, and from Williamsport to Pile Bay, there's a 14-mile road, and Ray Williams he hauls those boats across that road,
Wow.
and then they put in there and go down to Bristol Bay through the Quejack, and they'll do that rather than going all the way around, the Aleutian Falls Pass and coming up, save some days by
Oh yeah,
by
lots
doing
of
it this
fuel.
way. Yeah, fuel. Yeah.
So what do they dry pick them up with those big lifts and then
Yeah,
set
they pick
them
'em
on a low boy or something?
Yeah, it's just something that they would use a trailer and tractor them across. It's really treacherous road. I mean, it's
it's got to be.
yeah, it's narrow and there's some really you make a left turn and you're going down the cliff, but
Sliding.
it's beautiful, stunningly beautiful.
That's so cool, man. Cool Alaskan shit.
Yeah, a lot of cool stuff.
All right. So the next one's kind of fun. So Lake Iliamna is fed by how many tributaries plus what other lake, and how wide and long is that lake?
Ooh, tributaries.
It's got to be a bunch of. I was just looking at the map before the show tonight, and there's that lake off to the right.
Yep.
There's
It's like
actually
another
two
big-ass
lakes
lake.
off to the right, but one of them's big, and
Starts
that's the one we're
with a T.
talking about.
I don't even know.
Yeah, I don't know the
I'm
name.
gonna go with the tributaries though. How many tributaries feed it?
I'm gonna say 90.
90?
Named and unnamed. We're just gonna go for it. I
Yeah,
mean,
well, it's I don't know if they're probably all named because they're actually
yeah,
tributaries.
true,
I
true.
would say they're named.
I'm gonna say there's 3,200 tributaries.
Ooh,
3,200, and how many?
90.
What do you think?
I'm going to cut yours down a little bit. I'm going to
Okay.
say 32.
There's 34.
Oh, whoa.
So you guys are really close.
3,400.
Yeah. And okay, so
34.
Oh, 34.
Oh,
Just
34. Okay, I said
I was
said
30.
90.
I was
Okay, you said
34.
3,400.
I thought there'd be 1,000.
34. Okay. So it wasn't that bad.
this would be like
okay.
a creek or river or
Okay.
whatever.
Well, I just
Okay.
figured there's
Well,
like
that's-
so many little tributaries that would be dumping everywhere.
That's good to hear that because in my little spiel that I always give people, I tell them there's 32 major tributaries that drain into Lake Iliamna
Okay.
and one river that connects it to Bristol Bay, and that's the Quejack.
Yeah.
that's-
They're perfect.
Okay.
So now I got to amend that and say 34.
Yeah, there you go.
Okay.
There you go.
All right.
There you go.
Okay.
What was the lake though?
So will you
Oh,
have
wait,
to
wait.
name, you guys go for the lake now?
I could make up a name.
Yeah.
Okay, if you know what's the
I
lake?
have no idea.
Lake Clark.
Oh, I was gonna say Clark. I thought that was way lower.
No, Lake Clark's
To the
above it,
northeast.
northeast.
There was another lake though.
It's 6 Mile Lake.
No, it's with the T. You're right. Because we were looking at the map.
Yeah.
Well, that's
Not
way,
that.
that like Tustamina.
No,
I had a map.
we're looking at the lodge for Google Earth. Yeah, right there. What is that? So scroll to the right. What's it? Oh, the Kukulek.
Oh, that's Gibraltar Lake right there.
Oh, Gibraltar.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, there was another one that was like above it, wasn't there?
Yeah. Was it this one right?
Well, I guess there's tons of lakes around there.
Right here. This one here.
Yeah, what's that one? Scroll in.
It's not like
Doesn't
going
I think
say.
up.
you're in the right spot.
Well, there's Iliamna, right? Where's
Yeah, go
Iliamna?
up more. Go up more.
No, go to the top right. Go east and north.
Up.
Northeast. Okay.
Or this way.
Nundal.
Yeah. And there's the New Halen River.
Okay, that one.
Go right
Oh,
right to
Paul-
Port Ellsworth.
Paulsworth. What lake is that?
That's Lake
That's
Clark.
Lake Clark.
That's
what-
Lake Clark.
Oh,
Oh, okay.
okay.
And then
That's
there,
Lake Clark
guys.
there.
and then
Yeah.
at the end of that, there's another lake called 6 Mile Lake that's on this
This
New
little guy
Halen
here?
River. I
Let me
think
ta-
it's
okay.
further.
Let me take a guess.
Maybe that's it.
6 miles long.
You nailed it. Nailed it. Bar down.
Man, that area is so cool.
It is.
Yeah,
That's
super
amazing.
kinda
Is there
feel
another
almost-
one, Jackie?
Yeah.
Oh, there's one more. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I
Here we
almost
go.
feel ashamed that I haven't.
Man, Alaska's so big. Like Brian said, you just can't see it all. I mean, you can. You eventually maybe, but you know, we got some time.
I know. I mean, I intend to. I feel like I was telling these guys before the show. I used to be a small local insurance adjuster. I'd fly out small aircraft to small towns and go look at damaged properties. And Fish Alaska was my favorite thing to read. And Alaska Sportsman's Lodge was in there quite frequently. And I always told myself, I'm going to go fly and go fish remote out of Bristol Bay area. And I thought, I'll do that for sure. Like bucket list Alaskan thing. And here it is 20-something years later. I still haven't done it.
Yeah.
So I'm like, man,
That's
need to
on
make
the
it,
bucket
need
list
to make
for
it
sure.
happen. Yeah, dude.
Yeah.
No need to leave Alaska in the summertime.
Oh,
That's
no
right.
way. I told my I
never
refuse
go
to
on
go
vacation.
visit anyone or do anything in the summertime.
And summer projects.
No. Yeah, there's no projects that get done.
Yeah, and especially September. You know, I kind of tell my wife September is off limits. I mean, September and first part of October, I'm in one spot, and that's on the Kwijak.
Hell yeah. Because that's your time, right?
Well,
I mean,
we're open June 7th through October 15th at Alaska Sportsman. We own Alaska Sportsman's Lodge, and we own Bristol Bay Lodge. Bristol Bay Lodge is on Lake Lignick, which is west of Dillingham.
okay.
So those are the two that I'm involved with. We had 4 at one point. We had another one in King Salmon called Bear Trail Lodge, and now a local couple own that. Nancy Lyons and Heath Lyons own that one. And then Gary Sampson is at Kodiak Sportsman's Lodge.
Okay.
And Gary, unfortunately, has got some health concerns and stuff. So I gave him my ownership in that, and so I'm no longer involved in that. But
Wow.
That's on the Carle.
no, it's in Old Harbor.
Oh, is it? Okay.
Yeah, another spectacular, beautiful spot.
Yeah, no
Oh,
kidding.
yeah.
Yeah.
You just gave it to him.
Yeah. I mean, he's doing all the work, and
No, it just goes back to that handshake,
Well, yeah. I mean, it was
good old boy way of handling things, man. I mean, it's
It was-
honorable.
Thank
It's
you.
great.
But
Yeah,
I mean, yeah, you live it properly, and it comes back and
it does.
treats you properly.
That's
But,
right.
It just feels like there's just something about that's just lost in society now.
Yeah, yeah.
You
Yeah,
know?
Gary was. We bought David and I and Gary. We bought. Well, it was David and I. We bought Kodiak Sportsman's Lodge, and Gary was kind of our head guide manager, and so at that opportunity, he wanted to go over and have opportunity to be an owner, so we gave him ownership in it, and then. I hadn't been doing much with it. I'd been doing some marketing and stuff, but Gary and his wife, Jeannie, were doing all the work. Jeannie's from Cordova, and she's a chef and phenomenal, and they were doing all the work for it. And, this unfortunate thing with Gary, I mean, hopefully he's going to be all right, but it's like, you know what, you guys have it and take it. And what that actually allowed them to do was allowed them to bring in another investor. They got an influx of cash, a local guy, Rick Stonke. He owned a interior services company here in town, and passionate hunter and angler. And so Rick had been out there quite a bit, and he's, I'll get in on it. And
Sweet.
they've reaped huge rewards. They're sold out last year, and I mean, it's so awesome. But
Passing on the love.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, it's dope.
One
Just
more.
check. One more.
One more.
Jackie.
All right. All right.
Yeah, yeah.
All right. What? How many sockeye go up the Kwijak
What
on average?
On average?
On average, over
Ooh.
20 years. I only have the
On
range.
average per
I
year?
only have the
Okay.
range anyway, so you guys can give the range if you want, or just an average.
600,000.
250,000.
in a day?
That's right.
Whoa. Okay, what is
Well,
it?
you want me to say? I should say my number, and you tell me if I'm right.
Okay.
Does that work?
Sure.
So my range is 2 to 4 million, and it was 3 million was what I was gonna say.
Well, that's
3
on
million?
average. But
Oh, wait,
over
because
the
it
last
connects to the lake. Oh,
Over the last
Oh, man. Come on.
20, I mean, we've had runs of 10 million.
10 million?
Yeah. And we get about 30,000 fish an hour at times.
Holy cow!
Ah,
That's
shit.
amazing. You can just like walk across them.
It's unreal.
Yeah.
I mean,
I was gauging like Kenai River return.
I was too. Yeah. That's
yeah,
different
250,000 fish in a day would be
Oh,
kind of,
my God.
maybe June 28th, 29th.
Just peaked
And
out.
At the, at the peak of it, 300, 400,000 fish a day.
I mean, does the water literally boil?
No, well, it's Kvijak's big and wide. And it's braided right where we're at.
Oh, okay.
And becomes single channel as you get between Alaska Sportsman's Lodge and the mouth and Igiugig, and but they're going right up the bank, and so they might be 6, 8, 10 wide going up the bank, and it's just
stacked.
The difference between the Kenai or the Russian area, but the Kenai and the Kvijak is the Kvijak's crystal clear.
Mm-hmm.
So you see them,
just see their bodies.
Yeah.
And it can become maddening, right? Because
it's just all these tails.
But it's unbelievably inspiring to see that much biomass coming into a river system like that. When on the Kvijak at Igiugig at Sportsman's Lodge, they're basically 2 days, anywhere from 24 to 36 hours from the salt.
Okay.
And so, maybe 48, but they're chucking. They're marching right along the bank and moving.
Do they have a sonar?
No, the actual more accurate way to do it is through a counting tower because it's so clear.
Okay.
Yep.
So they just, what a great fishing game job. You just sit up there.
Gee, your thumb's got to be just worn.
So they take a 10-minute sample on each side of the river, and then they multiply it by 6 and extrapolate that to be the escapement for the hour. And that, you talk about what a great job, for some college kid or some intern. You're doing that, but those people, those 3 guys or gals that are doing that fish counting, control $1 billion fishery.
That's
because
true,
right? Once you get the escapement numbers, they get openers and things like that. So
that's great.
And then about how many kings do they get?
Kvijak doesn't have. It has a very, very, very small run of kings. Not one that we don't actively target kings there. It's kind of cool when you see one. Again, it's clear and you can see, there's a big king.
Big torpedo in there.
Yeah, but it doesn't really have a run of kings, and quite honestly, it's a little bit of a blessing because kings do bring. Historically, they bring a lot of traffic.
Right.
And so, we've got our sockeye run. We got all 5 species of Pacific salmon on the Kvijak, but, the big thing are the rainbows.
Right.
Yeah.
Cool.
I got some questions about the logistics for the opening of the lodge, but I wanted to maybe, if we could, Brandon, play the opening because tell us the guy who did the video again.
Yeah, sure.
What was his name?
Corey.
He did it
Loma.
awesome.
Yeah.
Is that his video where you do the opening one? Is that it right there, Brandon?
The opener?
The opener?
Yeah. Any video that's on is by Corey.
Okay, Brandon, there's one that says the opener. There's the fall finale, and then if you scroll down, maybe there's one that's the opener. I mean, extremely well done.
Hold the line.
I thought maybe
was it on Brian?
Oh yeah, no, go to the other. No, it's on this one. It's on this one.
Okay.
It's on this one. Yeah, keep going down.
These
maybe.
photos are unbelievable, man.
Where you guys getting pike?
Just in some of the lakes. Yeah.
Pretty close?
Yeah.
Really?
Big pike.
There's some monsters on there. So you haven't seen any invasion into the river system?
No, not really. We go and fish them in some sloughs and stuff like that.
Yeah.
It's actually it's kind of out of a little bit of necessity for June because king runs are a little bit slower. We still have people that want to go and fish them. We say we're real honest with our clientele and we'll tell them you might get a king or 2 or it might be a little bit smaller or whatever. We gauge it. But so we've had to find alternative types of fisheries. And rainbow trout and dollies are good and grayling and stuff. But from that tweener period between the season opener, because rainbow trout fishing is really, really good. But once the rainbow trout fishing kind of wanes a little bit, and before sockeye get there, we need something. You got to have a tight line. Or be able to at least get people to a tight line.
Yeah, totally.
And I mean, the pike. I mean, especially 40-inch pike. I mean, and on a fly.
Go back up to the top.
That one's beak. I mean, it was as big as a dog's.
There's if you go to the website on the videos.
Go back up and go to the videos.
Up.
Up, and then go reels.
So that's my wife in the red. That's Serena.
Oh, there.
Click that. Yep. Let me see. There was one that said the opener. Scroll down. It might be back at the hold the line.
What is this? Facebook or something?
No, this is Instagram. Right there.
Oh, there it is.
Instagram.
Can you spread that out?
Yep,
Make it
working
bigger.
on it.
So flying in each spring it's an emotional experience that I have when I come back to the river, and I know a lot of our staff experience that same emotion, and that's one of just pure love and appreciation for this river being here. And I feel like I'm at home when I come here. There's a couple of components coming into opening up for any season here at Alaska Sportsman's Lodge. So the task list is enormous to get something like this going. It's pages and pages and pages that we have to check off. It's definitely a logistically challenging task in that you have a target where you're trying to get to, and that target is we have to be ready on the evening of June 7th to receive our guests that are coming in and be prepared to take them fishing on June 8th.
Let the games begin, anticipating the main event. The crowd gets silent, lights get dim, and the show don't start until I step in. I display so proper, crowd and show rocker. What I got on my sleeve, on my drink, and the glow trotter. Others cool compared to me, they know nada. Shut them down quick, the showstopper.
It is amazing the undertaking that happens and the logistical challenges that we're dealing with out here in the middle of nowhere. Everything has to come in here. It's not like, oh, we forgot this, run down to the hardware store and get it, or, oh, hey, we need some eggs for tomorrow morning, go to the grocery store and get it. I mean, it's all pre-planned, and then just the physical
Just freezes up.
It's unbelievable.
That's where JJ and Billy come in.
Yeah, there are expediting arm and Anchorage.
Yeah.
They're our lifeline. It's actually important. You know, they do a really good job of it.
Yeah, I bet it's critical. You gotta have that guy. You go grab your whatever it is, your prop or
Any
whatever broke.
outdoor activity, hunting or fishing, brings a great sense of excitement because you don't know what it's going to give you. There's anticipation. You get that rush, that adrenaline rush going through. And, okay, we're here. Everything we've done, we worked for all winter long, all the parts and pieces fitting together, coming to that one moment where you can finally cast that line and hopefully it comes tight. This is first of 128 straight days, boys. So let's really rally this one up. Let's stay together. Understand we're all on the same team. We're here for a reason. That's to have a good, safe, enjoyable summer. Show some people some great times. Create some epic memories that people have for a lifetime.
A little delay on the freeze up from the.
Oh, is that what it's doing? Okay, because I'm watching my screen.
Yeah.
There it goes.
We can see some tight lines here.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, there it is.
Spooling.
Spooling. And it's raining. That's about right.
Yeah.
Woo! Look at that.
Mouse in? Yeah.
This is well done.
God damn, look at that fish. Lake trout. Lake trout. Oh, get out of here.
Laker eating smolt.
Fly fishing for Lakers.
So fun. Damn.
Rainbow there.
Dude, every fish in those net are just
Yeah,
monsters.
Gotta have to get a bigger net.
Oh, man, look at that. Oh, set it and forget it.
Look at how clear that water is.
Hell yeah.
Gin clear, he said.
Gin clear, man. God damn, look at those fish.
Amazing.
Ah, come on.
Wow.
Way
Yeah, that's
forward.
awesome.
It'll catch up. It's just got
Yeah, there's nothing I can do about it.
internet.
Yep.
I could watch this all day.
Yeah, for real. And the production, what was your buddy's name?
It's Corey Luoma, and he's got Fly Out Media.
Man, he does a phenomenal job.
Not for hire, guys. Not for hire. He's booked.
Well, you guys could use him.
Yeah, no, that's impressive work, and I mean, it just goes hand in hand with the quality of your lodge. It really shows the experience, what you're projecting for your clients.
Yeah, it's important for us that we are quality all the way through.
Yeah.
You know, we're not cutting corners. We're not being, flippant with our financial resources or anything like that. But
no half stepping.
Right. But it's quality. And,
Yeah.
we put a lot of effort into getting the best people, and we always have the best equipment. We don't cut corners with maintenance. We don't cut corners with safety, and we do it right.
Yep.
And it's just our attitude, and it's all the way through. And everybody, we look for that quality in people, and so one of the things I'm probably most proud of at Alaska Sportsman's Lodge. So this will be, what is this? This is going to be our 27th season in operation.
Wow.
And to this day, we do not have one guide that worked for us or pilot that worked for us that is now working for another lodge in Alaska that we wanted to have back. Now, we've cut ties with some, and said, okay, it just didn't work out, whatever. And some of those guys are working, and they're doing great, which is awesome. But we don't have people leaving us. We don't have, and it's a seasonal job.
Yeah.
Right.
And so we don't have people that are going, you know what, the grass is a little greener over at that other lodge across the lake or on that other side of the bay. They come to us, and that's it. And and we've got unheard of amount of time. We got guides that have been with us for 22 years, 18 years, 19 years. I mean,
Wow.
it's insane, and this is their career, and then they've settled in. We treat everybody, I think, really, really well. Everybody's got their own cabins. There's no sharing of that. Staff eats what guests eat. So if guests are eating filet mignon, staff are eating filet mignon. I mean, we just try to do it right and high quality throughout. And so, but and Corey and Katie are a big part of it. The videos, we want that to replicate what we're doing and what our efforts are and what's happening.
Scenes.
That one's really good. The Hold the Line one, that one there originally was produced to bring awareness to public testimony on Pebble. And it was showing the connection of the salmon, what the salmon bring to the region and how everything feeds off of it, and the connection that has with the ecosystem and the habitat, as well as with the rainbow trout, and that connection with my family and my responsibility to ensure that it's in as good a shape or better when it's there from me. And I have my little tag that I put on everything, that my emails, that I didn't inherit this land or this opportunity from my ancestors. I'm borrowing it from my children. And so it's my responsibility to take care of it and ensure it's in better shape than I had it. So anyways,
what is it?
That's amazing.
What does it mean to be Orvis endorsed lodge?
An Orvis endorsed lodge. So Orvis, fly fishing company, strong roots. They're out of Vermont now. And when I first built Alaska Sportsman's Lodge, I would go to these sport shows. I'd do 15 sport shows, just like we have the Great Alaska Sportsman Show here. So I'd do them all across the country. I'd leave in January.
Big ones too, right?
Yeah, Denver and Dallas and SCI and Reno and, just all of them. Chicago, Minneapolis, everywhere. Anyways, I'd go to these sport shows, and there'd be, call it 600 exhibitors, and 100 of them would be Alaskans. I'd be like, how is some customer going to differentiate Alaska Sportsman's Lodge from ABC Lodge, XYZ Lodge?
Right.
We're all saying the same thing. Oh, we got the best food, we got the best lodge, we got the best river, we got the best fishing. So what's going to set me apart? And I'm, building my reputation. And Orvis had the Orvis endorsement, and it was the closest thing to, any kind of like Condé Nast or, the hotels that get the 5-star rating or whatever, Michelin ratings and stuff.
Yeah.
And so I went, Orvis has got it. So for a customer, this gives them a sense of security and confidence that we meet a certain standard. And so I called up Orvis and I said, hey, I'd like to become Orvis endorsed. At the time, they had a rule in place that you could only have there couldn't be more than one endorsement within a 50-mile radius. And we, being where we were at, were 48.9 miles away from King Salmon. And there was an endorsed guide in King Salmon. So I let it go for a couple of years. Well, then that guide business actually decided to get out of the business. So Orvis called me up, and they came to the lodge. They actually inspect it. They just actually came to the lodge. We hosted a single guy, and he comes there and he inspects the lodge, looks at it, and I was really, I learned a lot from that because he would talk to basically every client that was there, and not once did he ask him how the fishing was. Not one guess. He asked, was the guide prepared? Was the guide professional? Did they have all the right equipment? How was the meal? How was the room? Was the pillow nice enough? Were the light bulbs all working? All this. And so, I felt really honored that, they stayed there. Orvis was there for 3 days. And when they walked out, they said, normally we go back and we talk it over, but you got the endorsement. And so I was like,
so it's really on the hospitality side.
Yeah, very much so. On the customer service.
Yeah.
And, fishing is a component,
Sure.
They knew the fishing in Bristol Bay is best in the world. And so, but, so you get the endorsement. There is a fee that we pay, it's to help cover some of the costs they produce massive print advertising and everything and digital media and stuff. So, but there is a fee that's associated with it, and there's a review process, and every guest that comes to the lodge gets a survey that goes directly to Orvis. So so it goes right to Orvis first, and then Orvis disseminates the information to us. But, and they'll do a visit once every, 3 years or so, and they'll come out and they'll just check in and see how things are going. They have there was one Alaskan lodge that they took the endorsement away because the service side of it had fallen a little bit. But, and I really like the Orvis program because they're not saturating with every lodge in Bristol Bay, right? So there's Intricate Bay Lodge, there's Sportsman's, there's Crystal Creek, Bristol Bay, so I have 2 of them, and then Tig-Chick Narrows. So there's 6 lodges in Bristol Bay.
It's exclusive.
And they keep it that way. They want to have enough vacancy. That's one of the things that they're worried about sports. We're booked a lot.
Oh, right. Other options.
We want people to, be able to get into these Orvis endorsed lodges. So they're conscious of that, but at the same time, they're also conscious of not just getting, okay, let's have, every lodge in Bristol Bay. Let's have 40 lodges there. Now you diminish the product as well, the brand. And so, but and then Orvis has really made a commitment. They had slipped on their gear. Sims was really kind of getting the bulk share, especially on the western part of the western fisheries. And Orvis made a conscious recognition that their quality had slipped, and this was maybe 8 years ago. And you got to remember, that's like when you're trying to change quality or change a product design with a company like that, you're shifting a battleship, right? You're turning or an aircraft carrier. It's a big turn. It's a big turn, right? Yeah. So it took them some years, but their fly rods are phenomenal. The Helios rod the H3 rod is absolutely phenomenal, and the Mirage reel is fantastic. And the waders now are all high quality, and they've really committed to it. And quite honestly, fishing is only about 8% of that company's business revenue because they've become clothing. A lot of clothing and hunting. The shotguns are a big part of it, and the bird hunting component.
Waterfowl and whatnot.
So
you mentioned availability. I'm just curious, like how many in an average year? How many guests would you say go through the Sportsman Lodge?
It's hard to quantify the exact number. I'd say, between 500 and 600, but that's because we at Sportsman's Lodge we do a unique thing. We do short stays. So when I first got in the business in Bristol Bay, it was a 7-day trip only, or 6 days. And to this day, most lodges are a 7-night, 6-day trip. Mm-hmm. And I got into it, and remember the stories I was telling you about my hockey connections, and with the people here in Alaska or in Anchorage, a lot of Anchorage people are saying, hey, look, I've got some business people coming up, or, ConocoPhillips has some oil people coming up or whatever, and they're going to be here for 4 days, but they can't come out for a week. Can you do something for like 3 days? And so I was hearing a lot of that. And at the same time, the people that were, there was a shift in the marketplace from the lower 48. It was getting a younger sport. People were making significant more, good money. The jobs were paying well, and you get guys that were 40 years old that were in the prime of their earning years that wanted to come out, but they couldn't take 7 days, because back then a 7-day trip was like really a 9-day trip with the logistics of the flights and everything. So they're like, man, can you do a shorter trip? So long story, we were the first to combine it. So we did a 4-night, 4-day trip combined with, we did a 4-night, 4.5-day trip and a 2-night, 2.5-day trip. So my local guys would come out Friday afternoon. They'd leave Anchorage at noon and get out to the lodge, and we'd fish late, and we'd fish that day, and they'd fish half a day Friday, all day Saturday, all day Sunday. And then they would fly back in, and that plane that would bring out the new guests, those new guests would stay 4.5 days. And they'd stay fish Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Right. And so, long answer to how many guests come out. We have a lot. Now we've done more, like we're 4-night, 4-day, and 3-night, 3-day. But there's a real appetite in the marketplace for that either 4 or 5-night is kind of the sweet spot.
Yeah.
At Bristol Bay Lodge, that lodge we operate out of west of Dillingham, when we bought it in 2013, it was 7 nights, 6 days only. And we added a component of a 3-night and a 3.5 day, and that's been real successful. But Bristol Bay Lodge will do about, 340 unique guests, where Sportsman's Lodge will do about 5 to 550 because of a lot of those shorter stays. But yeah.
What's the date range? June 7th?
Our first guest will come in on the evening of June 7th. You can start fishing on June 8th, so at midnight you could start fishing if you want to. We go June 8th through at Sportsman's Lodge. Our last guest this year will be October 12th. At Bristol Bay Lodge, we start on June 17th, and our last guest will be September 18th. So
128 days, I think you said to your
well,
team?
that was, it's about 130 days. Nonstop, no days off. Everybody works, got to be careful of the labor board here, but everybody's working 16 hours a day.
I was really impressed with that little video there. Just your rah-rah speech, like with your team and
sound like a coach like. Yes.
Well, yeah, right. I mean, I feel like there's like a morale.
Oh,
like I'm sure a lot of your job, besides the flying and the logistics and all the stuff, is morale with the team, right?
Absolutely. I mean, because we're asking the people that are coming out to work for us to give up their social life, basically.
Yeah.
Okay, they don't get to punch a clock and say, okay, come on, let's go take my date out to the movies or go to the dinner or go hang out with my buddies and go watch a game.
You're off the grid.
And you're always on, right?
Oh,
you got guests that are there
every
single day and stuff. And that's another thing, Sportsman's Lodge, there's a couple of things that make us unique. The Kujak being one, having great fisheries right
Location.
There and not having to fly if weather's not good or a guest doesn't want to. So we got a great fishery right there. The other thing is our 7-night, 7-day package is 7 full days. We do charters in the afternoon. So like if you did a 4-night trip, it's 4 full days. Or if you did 7 nights, it's 7 full days. Whereas most lodges are 7 nights and 6 days because of their logistics.
Right.
Our proximity to Igiugig and a landing strip allow us to have guests coming and going at, on the same flight.
Yeah,
same time. So, anyways, but yeah, the morale is a major part of it. I can usually tell without looking at a calendar when August 5th is, because at that time, I usually have to have a couple meetings, and sometimes it's all right, guys, we need to put the boxing gloves on, or what do we need to do? Find a way to get through it. But
starts getting a little testy.
Yeah, it just it can
wears on you.
Locker room, boxing room.
The thing that's really really nice is that we've got distinct seasons, which really keep the morale going.
Oh, right.
And the guides and the pilots I'm not going to say it's easy. It's a very difficult job. You're dealing with a lot of things that are out of your control. You're dealing with the client that has expectations that might not be realistic. You're dealing with fisheries that you can't control, weather, wind, watercolor. You know, I mean, there's so much out of your control as a guide. But the guides see different waters, and they are in the airplanes or they're flying different spots, and they're stepping away from the lodge. The hospitality staff and the culinary staff are at the lodge.
Yeah.
130
Day in
days.
and day out.
And they go from their cabin to the lodge, lodge. Now we work real hard. We go, hey, chef, you got to, you know, let's get you over to Brooks, go see some bears or something. And, you know, let's get you out and get the girls, you know, get them out and have them fish for a day or whatever, just to go give them a refresher.
Change it up.
Yeah. But even so, but yeah, the morale component is major, and we work real hard to make sure that everybody stays fresh and, you know, understands it. June 7th, the season opener, everybody's excited about that. And then, you know, some kings come in, we get that. That's exciting. All of a sudden, here's the sockeye, so that's a push. We become a fillet machine factory. And then all of a sudden, next thing you know, it's end of July, and you got some spectacular rainbow trout fishing on a lot of the tributaries that we fish up in Katmai. And then from there, it comes into, well, silvers and big rainbows. And it's just so we've got some windows where, okay, we've met that milestone. Now, now the sockeye are showing up.
Changes
now
up.
the silvers are showing up. Now it's big rainbows. Now it's time to go home. Wow, that was quick.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like there's options for people that are trying to come book some days at the lodge. I mean, depending on what you want to fish for.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Seasonally.
You know, we have, whenever somebody inquires, the first question I ask them is, you know, is there, one, have you been to Alaska before? And two, is there something you want to catch? Is there a specific species that you want to target? And if they, you know, if they say no, then that's easy. You know, okay, we can plug and play you at any time. Are you a fly fisher, or, you know, do you spay fish, or are you, you know, conventional gear, a combination of both? And so a lot of that kind of dictates when we're going to try and plug them in. You know, if a client says, well, I want to be there in August, but I want to catch king salmon, I got to educate them. So, okay, well, our season is in June for kings, right? So, you know, Alaska's...
always know.
Yeah, Alaska's so big, a lot of people will sit there and say, oh, well, I thought that, you know, there was a second run of kings. Well, you're talking about the Kenai, you know, so we have to, you know, there's a lot of that back and forth.
Education there.
Yep.
Yeah. How many staff would you say on average are, sorry.
That's okay.
Go ahead, finish it.
Oh, no, it was just the video. We were watching all the people, like the assembly line, like, you know, groceries and bag. I was like, damn, man, there's like a lot of people that look like they're staffed up. I mean, you got a pretty good number.
Yeah. Well, we like 20 guests is our sweet spot. So we have 20 guests. We'll have 11 guides on staff because we like to give a guide a day off. So we try to have
rotate them out.
Yep, 11 guides. We'll have 4 pilots. We've got 4 people in the kitchen, in the culinary, and we'll have 5 in the hospitality. And then we got Billy and JJ back here holding down the fort and being our logistics arm.
Wow.
Right on. What do you do? Just kind of roll around and
give
tell stories.
That sounds like a Billy or JJ. Hey, boss, what do you do?
give coach speak.
You know, I get that question a lot. Like at the end of the season, I'll, you know, go to Wednesday night hockey. I'll come in the locker room and like, oh, now you're off the whole season. You got nothing to do, right? Yeah, all this stuff happens magically. Right?
Exactly. You're the behind the scenes guy.
Quite honestly, the winter is more not challenging, but it's busier for me personally, because until recently I was a one-man shop. I do all the bookings. I'm doing all the permits. I got to deal with reporting. At the end of the season, we report to Fish and Game. We've got Park Service, Department of Natural Resources. You know, we got all these agencies that we have to fill out reports to and everything. I do all that, and I get all the marketing ready for next year. You know, I'm doing all the bookings and everything, and any kind of planning and stuff. So there's a lot of that goes on. But I've one of the gals that was working in the hospitality department, she became our hospitality manager and was overseeing the inside of the house. You know, one time I said, you know, God, I could use an assistant here. And I said, you would be great. And Gladys is her name. And Gladys was like, no way. It's, you know, it's an awesome story. You know, she's from Guam. And she's like, no way, I couldn't do that. And I said, oh no, yeah, you can. And anyways, I talked to her into it. So now she's running the inside and doing the bookings and stuff. So it's really taken a lot off of my plate. But I like to give support to our staff. I always say, tell me what you need to do your job. I don't want any excuses. I'll get you whatever you need. If you tell me you need pink woolly buggers, I'll get you pink woolly buggers. If you tell me you need only left-handed fly rods, I'll find the left-handed fly rods out here, right? I don't want any excuses. Chef, what do you need to make sure that it's highest quality and plenty of it, And so I'm there for support. I'd like to be there for leadership. David has been an unbelievable mentor. David's in his late 70s now, and he's been very generous. He offered me an opportunity to buy him out over time, which allowed me to peel off some ownership and reward a young man. His name's Nick Spear, and Nick has been with us for 10 years, and he's 31 now, I guess, and he's got unbelievable qualities. He can fix anything. He flies one of the beavers. He's got the personality. He understands the resource. And he's a leader, and the guys respect him. So Nick has become an owner. So I'm grooming him.
The captain.
Yeah. Well, I'm kind of grooming him to. I feel very fortunate. David believed in me and gave me the opportunity. And I can't do this forever. And I'm 56, and so I see an opportunity to now give Nick the same opportunity to grow with the company, and
that's great.
Yeah,
that's great.
But what do I do? I enjoy it a lot.
You do podcasts.
Right.
I like to fly. I do
Tell
like to fly.
stories.
I like to fly a lot. So I like to any excuse I have. Oh, you need me to go get a coffee mug? Okay, I'll go to Anchorage.
Pink woolly bugger. I'll be right back.
Yeah.
Need a pack of paper towels from Costco? I'll be right back.
Before we close it out, we've been going quite a while here. I know you probably get a lot of like famous people up there. Maybe you can share a story on maybe someone you didn't know was as famous as they were. A story of something spectacular.
Unexpected guests, maybe.
You kind of mentioned one before.
Yeah, I can tell a story about Otis Spunkmeyer. That was a good one. We had NHL guys up. We got a little hockey connection going. We've had some NBA guys. Who I'm really sorry that I don't know them. I don't know their names and stuff. But what's really inspiring is hearing some stories of people that have had success, but also have had failures and then created success from it. And so it's a great business to be in. My wife is in a relocation business here, and so her phone rings, it's a problem, right? So as an owner, it's like her phone rings, she's dealing with, okay, what happened here? What was this claim? What was that? And it's always stressful, right? My phone rings, it's people are happy, right? They're like, I'm doing something that I'm planning a trip that I've been planning on for a year, and this is awesome, and I can't wait. And so we're in the enjoyment business, right? And so I deal with customers that are happy, and it's a lot of fun. But so we had a client that right in the beginning, he was at the lodge, and he'd been there for 7 days. This was actually his last day. He's walking past the kitchen. I told my chef, we're just starting out, and I said, make it easy on yourself. You don't have to make everything from scratch. So if you want to use some frozen products or whatever, just do the best you can. And she was great. She was a self-taught chef and Alaskan gal. And anyway, so I said, I really like these frozen cookies that they do. You can bake and pre-made, and they're called Otis Spunkmeyer. And she said, oh, great. So she got them, and she was cooking them all summer. And this client walks past the kitchen and looks in, and he goes, oh, Otis Spunkmeyer cookies, huh? You like those? And I said, yeah, I love them. He goes, thanks for the business. I was like, what? He goes, you're Otis Spunkmeyer? I thought your name was BB. And he goes, well, yeah, I am, but that was my company. And I'm like, wow, well, tell me that story. Anyways, long story short, he was making chocolate chip cookies in San Francisco, and he needed a way to grow his business. Some guy said, I'll support you, I'll financially support you, but you need to change the name. And so BB was at home, and he was talking to his daughter, and she's 14 years old, and she's not paying attention to him. He's like, God, I got to come up with a name. Can I get a name? What do I got to name this company? It can't be San Francisco's Best Cookies. And she scribbles on a piece of paper. BB goes to sleep, and on the piece of paper, he comes down the next morning and says, Dad, call it Otis Spunkmeyer world famous chocolate chip cookies. He's like, wow, reads it, puts the paper in his pocket, tells the financial guy, and the financial guy goes, yeah, that's it. That's a great name. Go get Mr. Spunkmeyer to sign off on it. And BB goes home, and hey, I can't remember the daughter's name, but goes, hey, sweetie, introduce me to Mr. Spunkmeyer. And she's like, Dad? there is no Mr. Spunkmeyer. I made the name up. He's like, what? Why would you do that? And she goes, Dad, I guarantee you look at that piece of paper, put that piece of paper in your right pocket, and it hasn't left there all day. But you remember the name of the cookie company, right? And he's like, yep, I absolutely did. He takes the company public. They end up, forming a partnership, building, cooking 350 tons of cookies a month type of deal, and take the company public, and the rest is history. I mean, a great success story. But we hear a lot of that, and but it's not, you don't have to be super financial. I don't want to paint a picture that it's exclusive type deal, but it is expensive for us to operate, and I think we charge a fair price for it. We're not gouging the marketplace. We're covering expenses, and we don't cut corners, and people see that and recognize that. And I had one client one time, I was talking to him at dinner, and I just said, I understand it's an expensive trip. And he says, no, Brian, it's not expensive. You're getting what you paid for. And as long as I'm hearing that, then I know we're doing it right.
Yeah.
So,
well, and with return clients, which I'm sure you have lots of those, I'm sure you have your fair share of folks that this is a one-shot deal. They save a lot of money. I think about like a family that saves a bunch of money to go to Disney World. Mm-hmm. Not to compare your lodge to Disney World. The point is that it's a very big logistical challenge. It's expensive. You're not going to do it all the time. So you save time, you set aside a vacation portion, all the plane tickets, the stuff to go have this maybe once in a lifetime experience, right? Mm-hmm. And I imagine that's what a lot of people are getting to come to your lodge.
We treat it like that. We treat
it could be their first, could be their last,
Yeah, one of the things that we are always saying is that we have to be on every single day. We can't afford to have we have to be at our A game every day. We can't have a B or a C or a D game day. And that's because for these people, I mean, some of these people are here for 3 days or 4 days with us. So those 4 days are crucially important. I mean, so we have to at least be on our game. Now, we can't control the weather. We can't make every fish bite, but what we can control better be done right. Equipment better be in great working order. We better be prepared. We better be safe. We better make the right decisions, and things that we can control done right. So,
Brian, we're going to have you back. I was just looking. I think we missed about 30 topics that we wanted to cover.
The agenda was so long. I was like, wow.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, you have such a long history here with your hockey career and the Sportsman's Lodge and the other lodges and coaching. And, I mean, thank you for coming in and sharing all this stuff with us. And we'd love to have you come back in and talk some more of these stories and put JJ and Billy and some of these guys in their spot with some of their stories. But thank you for that and what you're doing and your work with the Pebble Mine stuff. And, I mean, that's all important
huge
things. And a lot of that stuff people don't really see, on the background.
Well, thank you. I feel fortunate that I was in the right place at the right time. I was honored that I was involved in this fight, and things happen for reasons. And like I said, I was still here, and I really do. I feel honored that I was able to be leading this charge, and it was really important to me. I didn't know it at the time, but now as I reflect back on it, it was something that kind of defines me, and it really was important to me.
That was great.
Really
Any
well
last
said,
questions,
man.
guys?
No, I'm good. Yeah, thanks for sharing your story, Brian. It was awesome to meet you in person, and I'm excited to hear more stories.
Yeah, it's so rad to hear like a name and stories. Because I've heard a lot about you in the hockey community stuff, and I know about your lodge time, but to see you in person and talk to you in person, hear your stories, very genuine, very true, very honest and transparent, and thank you for everything, man.
Yeah, appreciate it.
You really showed up tonight. Thank you so much.
Thanks.
Yeah, you did.
Well, we'll have to. You say you got 30 more questions, so maybe we'll have to do a road trip out to Sportsman's Lodge and have the next podcast.
Don't tempt
there.
us with a good time, bro.
Yeah.
Don't tempt us with a good time.
That's easy. We just got to put it on the schedule.
Let's do it, man. We would love to. We actually have some touring stuff in the works that we're working on, and if you'd have us, we'd be honored.
Yeah.
So
awesome.
thank you very much.
Yeah.
Yep. Thank you, Alaska. Thank you
Well
for
done.
listening. Thank you, Brian, for coming out. The Sportsman's Lodge, Alaska Sportsman's Lodge on Instagram, alaskasportsmanlodge.com. And thank you for everyone for listening. And as always,
Stay wild.
You'll remember my speaking to you of what I call your overcautiousness. Are you not overcautious? when you assume that you cannot do what the enemy is constantly doing?
The Alaska Wild Project podcast is brought to you by the following sponsors.
Barney's Sports Chalet, supplying hunters with the best hand-selected gear since 1963. The exclusive home of frontier gear built for the rugged Alaskan terrain. Your one-stop shop for all your outdoor needs. Visit Barney's today at 906 West Northern Lights.
Tailored Restoration 24-hour emergency home services, helping Alaskans restore their dreams since 1972. Services include fire, water, mold, post-emergency cleaning, repair, and remodeling. Give them a call in Anchorage, Eagle River, Matsu, or Fairbanks. Hit them up at tailoredrestorationalaska.com.
Total Truck and Alaska Overlander, Alaska's premier supplier for custom automotive accessories and overlanding products, providing all-inclusive rental vehicles and trailers custom outfitted to explore the Alaskan backcountry with a unique and convenient traveling experience.
TheTreehouseAK.com, located at 341 Boniface Parkway, Alaska's own and grown cannabis and CBD store. Ask the bud tender what the strain of the day is to get your 10% off. The Treehouse, where the culture lives. AKO Farms, located in Sitka, Alaska, built from the ground up with concentrates as their single motivation, with exclusive products such as their sugar wax, full spectrum diamond sauce carts, and more. Ask your local bud tender about AKO.
Marijuana has intoxicating effects and may be habit-forming and addictive. Marijuana impairs concentration, coordination, and judgment. Do not operate a vehicle or machinery under the influence. There are health risks associated with consumption of marijuana. For the use of only by adults 21 and older. Keep out of the reach of children, and marijuana should not be used by women who are pregnant or breastfeeding.
The Bait Shack, located on Ship Creek upstream of the bridge. Can't miss the bright red shack. They are the go-to fishing gear rental and guide service on Ship Creek. Tight lines and fish on. Come hook into the action with them. Hit them up at thebaitshackak.com.
Snow Pro AK, your snow and ice management company specializing in business and residential properties. They know what it takes to keep your property presentable and safe. Give them a call for a free estimate at 280-7098 or visit lawnproak.com. Double Shovel Cider Company, located off of Arctic and 58th, handcrafted Alaskan-made colonial ciders. They also have a tap room downtown on the corner of 5th and E. Stop by today and taste an award-winning cider.
The Alaska chapter of Backcountry Hunters and Anglers. BHA is the voice of our Alaskan public lands, waters, and wildlife. Their goal is to uphold our hunting and fishing legacy while keeping our public lands wild. Stand up today and join BHA at backcountryhunters.org.
Not claim to be at least his equal in prowess and act upon the claim? I say try. If we never try, we shall never succeed. This proposition is a simple truth, and it's too important to be lost sight of for a moment. If we cannot beat the enemy where he now is, we never can. It is all easy if our troops march as well as the enemy, and it is unmanly to say they cannot do it.